attorneys and contracted consultants will present and comment first. We will begin with attorneys, contracted consultants, and then non-attorneys. Planning Commission members may ask questions directly. Each non-attorney will initially be given 5 minutes to present data or enter documents into the official record. Every non-attorney will have 3 minutes to provide a single rebuttal to a previous speaker's presentation of data or document entry. Speakers are asked not to repeat something that another speaker has said, but may come forward and say they agree with one or more of the other speakers and present anything new they may have. Planning commissioners may comment and ask questions at any time. The chairman will ask for a motion, second, discussion, and vote to approve or change the rules at the beginning of the public hearing. That is my suggestion. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion concerning the speaking rules? All in favor of approval as presented, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Very good. Mr. Bishop, you're going to kick things off for us?
Yes, sir. This is number 1 on the tentative schedule that the Planning Commission has adopted. This is land use and siting criteria. The purpose of this is to determine where wind energy conversion systems, WECs, should be permitted and under what conditions. Studying zoning suitability, minimal parcel sizes, turbine density, setback distances to property lines, dwellings, roads, utilities, height limits, and compatibility with existing land. The staff has provided an executive summary and a series of recommendations that I would like to go over. So if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me.
Okay. Sorry about that. The Henderson County Wind Energy Public Hearing Plan identifies land use siting criteria as the first topic for review during the moratorium process, which with March 18, 2026 public hearing intended to address if and or where wind energy conversion systems should be permitted and under what conditions, including among possibility of other things, zoning suitability, minimal parcel size, turbine density, setback, height limits, and compatibility with surrounding land uses, et cetera. Staff has reviewed wind energy system, conversion system ordinances, standards in other jurisdictions, and staff preliminary recommends that if the county elects to allow this use, it should do so within the existing zoning ordinance framework. Therefore, Section 1, staff recommends as follows. 1.1, the current zoning maximum height of 200 feet remains in place and should not be exceeded for wind turbines, WECs. Currently, no structure in Henderson County can exceed 200 feet in height according to the current zoning regulation. There is a variance procedure to regularly exceed 200 feet in limited circumstances. See airport restrictions and cellular tower regulations. This 200-foot height regulation would be to the highest point of the WEC structure, which presumably would be the tip of the propeller blade. Section 1.2, only allow commercial WECs as a conditional use in the M2 heavy industrial district, which require conditional use notice as required by KRS 100-2376 to be provided to adjoining property owners as well as every property owner within 1 mile radius of the proposed location of the system. Applicant shall be responsible for all postage costs and mailed notices. 1.4, require site plan by the Henderson City County Planning Commission. 1.5, it is the staff's understanding that the current existing surface mining district regulation cannot be amended. Staff would suggest further input from the county attorney on that issue. A minimum 1 mile setback from occupied structures, rivers, wildlife refuges, publicly owned nature reserves, dedicated natural areas, similar protected conservation lands to be measured from the center of the WEX tower to the nearest corner of the structure or other encumbered item. The 1 mile setback from occupied structures, but not following paragraph 6 setbacks, could be waived in writing by adjacent property owner to whom the resident setback is applicable. Notice of this waiver would be placed in the public record, which is essentially be recorded in the courthouse. Section 1.7, setback of at least 1,640 feet or 1.5 times the turbine height or the ice throw distance plus 250 feet, whichever is greater, from property lines, public roads, above ground utilities, transmission facilities, private easements, or driveways serving non-participating properties. occupied structures that have entered to a waiver agreement waiving the 1 mile setback. 1.8, the applicant would be required to submit an ice throw hazard analysis certification prepared by a qualified engineer or a professional acceptable to the Planning Commission. And for note, these are staff recommendations are the beginning point as additional information is anticipated over the course of the various scheduled public hearings. And then if it's agreeable to the Planning Commission, I will go through the following pages briefly. I don't want to read every single thing to you, but I will touch on every item. Section 2.1 is the maximum height that I addressed earlier. That is set out in ordinance number 1403, and which is the airport regulation, and then Article 29, regulation for cell towers. Each of these were added to the county zoning ordinance in 2014. Both have a maximum height of 200 feet. Section 2803, navigable airspace. This is the definition in which sets the 200 foot from the county, and that is a set height limit for the city and the county. Section 2804L, navigable airspace zone. Section 2807 discusses variances to that height restriction. Section 29.02 is the definition for cellular antenna tower height. Section 2905, design standards and height of cellular antennas, where it reiterates the 200-foot height limit. Upon review, the applicant's justification, additional height criteria could be identified through the process. 2.2, land use compatibility and zoning classification. Staff would recommend that WEX be conditional uses in the M2 industrial district, similar to solar farms, which is section 30, and BESS, which would be section 32, systems which were added in April 2004. A required site plan to be approved by the Henderson City County Plan Commission. Section 30.03, additional standards. Level 2 solar systems are allowed in light industrial and heavy industrial zones. 3203, zoning B. Tier 2 battery storage systems are conditional uses in the M2 zone, heavy industrial described in Appendix A of 21 of the Henderson County Code of Ordinances. 3203, zoning, all Tier 2 battery energy systems conditional use public notices must be provided to property owners within 1 mile of the proposed location of the system. 3204, zoning, site plan. Staff recommends a requirement that a site plan be submitted to the Henderson City County Plan Commission for approval. Moving to section 3, land use compatibility and zoning classification. The current surface mining district cannot be amended to accommodate WEX. The surface mining district is a limited purpose district established for surface mining operations and closely related agricultural uses, with reclamation and post-mining use requirements that are already addressed elsewhere in the ordinance framework. Disturbed land in the district must ultimately be reclaimed and returned to either its original zoning classification or to an alternate post-mining land use which is separately justified, reviewed, and approved by the Planning Commission. The statement of purpose of the surface mining district establishes as a district which only permitted uses are surface mining and agricultural and those accessory uses as are necessary to operation surface mining activities. Section 2604, termination of use. Surface mining of land is a limited duration use, and once use is terminated, the site shall be reverted back to its original zoning classification. 2706, post-mining land use. All disturbed areas shall be restored in a timely manner to the conditions that are capable of supporting the uses which were capable of supporting before any mining or higher or better uses achievable under criteria and procedures of this regulation. Post-mining land use D, criteria for approving alternate post-mining land uses change from one use to another falls to the Planning Commission. Section 4, minimum setbacks from occupied buildings. This is precedent set by Mason County, Kentucky. Mason County, Kentucky is the first county in the Commonwealth of Kentucky that we are aware of to pass an ordinance regulating WEX. The primarily ordinance regulating industrial wind energy in Mason County was given final approval April 15, 2014 during a regular meeting of the Mason County Fiscal Court. Minimum setbacks from occupied buildings. Other wind projects such as Crossover Wind Project in Cross County, Arkansas, which is a 135 megawatt wind energy facility using 32 Vestas V163 4.5 megawatt turbines, is an example of modern utility wind projects employing similar to ours. When evaluating setbacks from occupied structures, the Plan Commission may consider manufacturer guidance indicating that the shadow flicker is generally limited to within approximately 1 to 1.5 kilometers, which is 0.62 to 0.93 miles, or 3,281 feet to 4,921 feet. And then section 4.3 will discuss shadow flicker, and there are several links that the Plan Commission can peruse whenever they would like. Section 4.4, minimum setbacks from residential and property values. Recent research concerning, concerning wind turbines and residential property values reflects mixed results, but several studies indicate that any measurable sale price or marketability effects are most likely to occur closest to turbines, particularly during the announcement and construction period, with the strongest effects often observed within 1 mile and smaller and less consistent effects at greater distances. In combination with concerns relating to shadow flicker, nighttime rule conditions, visual dominance, and general land use compatibility, the county may reasonably recommend a 1 mile setback from occupied structures as a conservative and administratable protective buffer. And there's also several links to sources for that section as well. Minimum setbacks from wildlife, refuges, and rivers. No WEX turbine shall be located within 1 mile of the boundary of any publicly owned nature reserve, wildlife refuge, dedicated natural area, or similar protected conservation land. This is consistent with the ordinance that Mason County passed in 2014. And then there are 4 other sources to cite that. Minimum setbacks from property lines, roads, and utilities. To protect adjacent property, public infrastructure, and utility facilities from blade throw, tower collapse, maintenance incidents, and other reasonably foreseeable hazard, which each energy conversion system WEX shall comply with the following minimum setbacks. No structure or no turbine shall be located closer than 1,640 feet or 1 1/2 times the total turbine height, which is ever greater, measured from the center turbine based on the nearest property line of any property. Public roads, no turbine shall be located closer than 1,640 feet or 1 1/2 times the total height, which is ever greater. The same is also relevant to utilities and transmission facilities, as is private access easements and driveways. Minimum setback for ice throw. To protect persons' property and infrastructure from WEX from hazards associated with ice accumulations and ice throw, each wind energy conversion system, WEX, shall be designed, sited, and operated to minimize the risk of ice shedding and ice throw beyond the project boundary and onto non-participating property, public roads, railroads, utilities, and occupied structures. The applicant, the application shall include an ice throw hazard analysis prepared by a qualified professional identifying the expected risk area under normal operating conditions, startup, shutdown, emergency braking, foreseeable winter weather conditions. And from 5.7 to 5.74 on the section, I give 4 different references and a brief description of those websites. And that is a brief overview of the document that staff has provided.
Thank you.
Sounds
Commission have
like
any-
you did your homework.
A little bit.
Commission have any questions for staff? Anything you'd like to add at this point?
No, sir.
Okay. We're going to proceed to a testimony from the gathered group here. Do we have any attorneys here this evening who are going to be speaking in favor of wind energy conversion systems in Henderson County? Yes, please, sir. Please approach. Your name, sir?
Good evening. My name's Gregory Dutton,
Your address?
400 West Main Street, Louisville, Kentucky.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you, sir. Please proceed.
First point of clarification on the procedures. I do have a witness with me here today who may want to speak on some of the specific topics. Would you like me to call them in advance, or would you like me to make my remarks first?
Go ahead and make your remarks, and then we'll hear from attorneys that might have a different opinion, and then we'll go back to your witness.
Understood. I appreciate that. Well, first, let me say I want to commend the staff on obviously taking the time to do some significant research. There are a number of sources of information out there. I commend them for trying to take a look at some of those. Most of the information that we just heard from Mr. Bishop, that was the first time that we had heard any of it. So it's a little bit difficult for me to comment on that. What I would like to say tonight is to walk through a draft proposed ordinance that we had previously provided that covers many of the topics that Mr. Bishop discussed, just to give sort of the perspective from a developer where it is that we thought some of these items may work out. The first one is where it can be permitted. I understand that there's a question about the surface mining property. I'm happy to have a conversation with the county attorney about that afterwards. We have developed a number of projects on surface mines in locations that have planning and that don't have planning. And typically the way that works is through the cabinet. The cabinet will give us an alternative designation for a post reclamation use, and they're generally pretty generous about those. If that's the concern with the SM designation here and putting any of this infrastructure on an SM designation, then we would like to revisit that and see if we can't work that out. Because that type of area is perfect for this type of development. Because of the nature of the way that those are developed, there's high wind resources in those locations. The second one that we would ask for this group to consider is agricultural. Because a lot of those surface mining areas and a lot of the I-2 areas that we're talking about here, they abut agricultural areas. And so you may end up with a sort of a patchwork of a project as opposed to one consistent project if you exclude the agricultural. Otherwise, you're in a position where you're going to have to transition large portions of agricultural into I-2 when only a portion of that property may be used. Because of the setbacks that we're going to propose tonight and the setbacks that we're talking about here, we would hate to rezone large properties that are primarily agricultural for this type of use.
Mr. Chairman, can I jump in a little
Sure,
bit on that?
sure.
So,
Thank you. A couple clarifications. We have no I-2 industrial zone. It's M2 in Henderson.
Apologies.
And the issue with the surface mining zoning is that Henderson and Davies County are the only two counties in the state of Kentucky, if I remember correctly, that have surface mining regulations. The county attorney who's currently in office and the previous have both said they will not recommend that the fiscal court change that because they do not want to lose the ability to regulate surface mines, which is why staff went with that recommendation.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
By all
can we
means.
close the blinds? The next half hour is gonna be a little tough on some of us on
Are
the
there
side of it,
blinds?
if you don't mind.
Not ones.
Well, whatever. There are no blinds?
No, it's just dirt.
We're a small community
It's,
on a limited budget.
Next time
Okay.
table will be over there. I
All
bet.
right, no problem.
it's sunglasses time, I guess.
It's okay. Well, I brought some, so it's okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, sir, I'm sorry.
No, certainly. What we had proposed was to talk about, to do these also through a site plan application, and many of the things that they have recommended, we had also recommended. First of all, obviously the site plan that's in accordance with the existing permitting. We also, I don't think this was talked about, suggested an emergency response plan. So this would be a draft emergency plan that includes on-site training for the local first responders. This is something that we recommended in our ordinance. As well as a sound model, I think there was some discussion about that. I wasn't entirely sure with the ISO standards because I don't know all of them. But that was one that was talked about as well. And then a shadow flicker study as well. And part of the reason that we recommend these is to help determine what are the appropriate setbacks. If there's a hill behind where the sun is gonna go down, then there's no need for, a mile and a half setback. And so that's why we would recommend some sort of a flicker study to make sure that we have reasonable setbacks. We also recommended, we have some timeframes that are included into our proposed ordinance. These were drawn from a variety of sources within the county's existing code. So some of them are from BESS, some of them are from the solar, some of these are from the radio towers, but something along those lines in terms of the procedure, just so it's outlined a little bit clearly, sort of what the time frame is and how these proceed through that time frame. We have suggestions, 60 days for after an application is received to have some sort of comments back from staff, make sure that there's a public hearing, these types of procedural safeguards, both to benefit the commission as well as the developer and as well as the public, so that there's an orderly process that this can unfold with. Another thing that we suggested was to have a final site plan that's filed essentially 30 days before the commencement of construction, and we would suggest defining commencement of construction. Because as these are developed, there are a lot of times where you want to optimize where these turbines are located. So your initial site plan may find that you need to move it over 10 feet or move it this way 20 feet to avoid karst, or just because it's a better location in terms of the setbacks. I will let my colleague here talk about the setbacks that we have specifically suggested, because I think those, a number of them are almost identical to what it is that Mr. Bishop has suggested. Some of them are a bit more generous in terms of the development, and there are justifications behind that, so I'll let him talk about that. One thing that I don't think that was talked about that we had proposed was actual noise limits, so doing a study about how loud these are going to be and from what distances, and build that into the setbacks that we're talking about with these projects. I think the final main point that I don't believe was covered by Mr. Bishop was a decommissioning plan as well as site reclamation. The ordinance that we had proposed as sort of a draft jumping off point has several recommendations about how to structure decommissioning, how to ensure that decommissioning is done properly, and what sort of site reclamation should go on upon decommissioning. I will also add one point to that. These projects are also going to be regulated by the state. The state Kentucky Siting Board is going to have, regardless of sort of what ordinance comes out of this, if a project comes out of this commission approved, it's still going to have to go before the state siting board, which has extensive requirements in terms of studies, setbacks, decommissioning, public hearings, evidentiary hearings. There will be witnesses that are called. So I just want to be mindful that this is, unlike many, many developments that come before this commission will not have the last say on whether or not the project even gets approved or what sort of setbacks are going to be incorporated. There is a robust, essentially year-long process that the state takes after this board would approve that. So I just ask you to keep in mind that to the extent that we can incorporate those and try and make those overlap as we move forward, that would be probably most efficient for everyone involved, this commission, the state, the developers, as well as the public to understand what's coming before them. The final thing that I think I would ask is to just make sure that the ordinance that we had presented to the commission, I know it's in the public files that are available on the website, just to make sure that that is part of the records for tonight's hearing. I'm assuming Mr. Friday can help me with that. Otherwise, I think those are my comments at the outset. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions for this gentleman?
Mr. Dutton, the staff has recommended in paragraph 1.6 a minimum of a 1 mile setback from any occupied structures, rivers, wildlife refuges, et cetera. Does your client agree to at least a 1 mile setback? You mentioned that your proposed ordinance has proposed setbacks. I don't have that in front of me right now, but.
And I don't have that in front of me, so apologies, but what was
Sure.
can you tell me what the proposed setback was again?
Sure. As I read this, and Mr. Bishop, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a 1 mile, a minimum of a 1 mile setback from occupied structures for any wind turbine to be erected in our county.
And so what we had proposed was from occupied community buildings was 2.5 times the maximum blade tip of the wind tower, which is typically how these setbacks are done, is based on the maximum blade tip height, but no less than 1,500 feet. So it's less than the mile that was discussed.
Okay, so 1,500 feet, that's, I'm no good at math, but 500 yards. Give or
Yes,
take.
that's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Other questions from the commission? At this point?
Mr. Chairman, may I add one thing?
Yes.
We did not address shadow flicker.
Sorry about that, Jennifer. We did not address shadow flicker and noise and decommissioning because those are items that would come later. Staff will be able to provide recommendations at that point if the Plan Commission directs us to.
Okay, thank you. How can people get a copy of your presentation?
If they send me an email, I can send it to them in a PDF document.
Okay. Everybody got your email address?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Perhaps you could provide your email address?
Yes, the email address is bbishop@hendersonplanning.org. If you send me an email requesting a document, I'll be happy to share it.
Right, very good. And then we'll go into the Dropbox too.
It will.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, sir. We'll probably need you back.
Okay, can I just make one more request, or a procedure request? If there are, in future hearings like this, if there are gonna be sort of documents that are presented by staff, if there was an opportunity to review those in the beginning, it would help us to make informed and sort of considerate, commentary on them, but I heard most of that tonight, so that's why we're relatively flat-footed and unprepared to comment on it specifically.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like a copy of the executive summary?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Very good. Do we have any other attorneys here that are gonna be speaking in favor of wind energy conversion systems in our county? Do we have any attorneys here this evening who will be speaking in opposition to such projects in our county? Okay, very good. Then, sir, I think we can go back to your testimony or your witness concerning such a project.
Yes, I have with me today Tim Vaught.
Hi, good evening.
Need your address?
Tim Volk, I'm with Cordelia Power, 55 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York.
And do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, would you tell us your home address?
I live at 119 Raybould Drive in Wexford, Pennsylvania.
Thank you. Gary,
All right, do you want me to start with getting into this, or just kind of what I prepared to state from the beginning? I just want to start off by saying thanks for the opportunity. We recognize that this is a long process. A little bit of background, Cordelia has been working in this county since 2022. So we've approached a number of landowners over the course of the last almost 4 years. Significant interest with over 21,000 acres of property that has expressed interest in participating in a renewable facility by signing an agreement to participate in the project. We've tried to educate the planning staff, the fiscal court, planning commission members with materials we've provided earlier this summer. You know, we did not have a chance to see the materials presented tonight until right now. But I think I would like to address Member Hamilton's comment earlier about 1 mile setbacks. I've never seen a wind facility built under an ordinance with a 1 mile setback from residences and other material resources. So, you know, that is my perspective, and I've been doing this now for over 21 years. I'm also a little bit surprised that we're looking at the details of a document with setbacks and other constraints before we've had an opportunity to go through the process of submitting and you all having a chance to review and gather information.
This is just a recommendation.
I understand, but as I was preparing for tonight, I was under assumption there was gonna be, you know, a series of meetings before an ordinance was actually drafted for consideration. So, we'll take the information we've received, we will review it, and we will make sure that when we come to the future hearings, we'll be able to prepare directly upon the topics that are being addressed in those meetings. With that, are there any other comments you want me to address first?
Yeah, I think talk about the land use and the sort of the sites that are available for this.
So wind turbines are generally constructed in areas that are removed from buildings. Industrial areas that have existing buildings is not feasible. We typically, as noted here, need setbacks of significant distances, typically a quarter mile or larger. Within the current commercial zones or heavy industrial zones, I can't think of any that have a mile setback from existing buildings. Typically, ag land is where most wind and other renewable facilities are sited. And that is certainly what we would request to be included as an allowed area. Certainly, we can have discussions about the mining. Really, I believe that some of the mines that are being reclaimed and that mining zone is being removed. as those are reaching reclamation or fully reclaimed and bond release status.
Do you want to talk about the Illinois statute and sort of how that compares to this proposal?
So Illinois has had wind farm development activities since 2002, when the first wind farm was built, about an hour and a half west of Chicago. Since that time, numerous developers have been active in the state, and a number of projects that have been built. In Illinois, the counties have regulatory authority over the facilities. They don't have a state siting board like is here in Kentucky. Over the course of the last 2 decades, a number of counties have adopted ordinances that were prohibitive. And the state recognized that there were numbers of opportunities where counties were missing out on opportunities for significant financial investments. Landowners were missed out on the opportunity to host these facilities and receive the income. The state stepped in a couple of years ago and adopted an ordinance that established maximum setbacks and constraints that wind facilities would have to abide by, and all counties had to amend their ordinances so their setbacks and other considerations did not exceed the state limits.
This is in Illinois.
This is in Illinois. As an
And what are those maximum limits?
So the setback distances from
Yes.
non-participating property lines is 1.1 times the tip height. That is a standard that's seen in many states. The reason behind using that is in the unlikely event a wind turbine falls over or a blade falls off, it is expected it will fall within that distance, so it will not travel onto an adjoining property. The typical setback from a house, I don't have that in the top of my hands, but it's very similar, I think 2.5 times the tip height that we proposed in the ordinance we provided to the county. The other things that are driving setbacks from residences are also the sound and shadow flicker limits. We all recognize that wind facilities have impacts. We can't deny that. They make sound, they cause shadow flicker. But people generally have some level of impact from them. It's determined in Illinois that a non-participant can receive up to 30 hours of shadow flicker on their house per year. We as a developer can model that. We can predict what the sun angle is at a various time during the year, and we can predict how many hours they're going to experience the shadow flicker on their house. Similarly, we can measure existing sound levels, and we can model what the sound levels from a wind facility will be. And we can make sure that our setbacks are far enough that a non-participating receptor, houses, schools, churches, other buildings, don't have sound levels that exceed those limits. So we are, as an industry, incorporating a number of impacts that are perceived or real to neighboring parcels and protecting them from adverse impacts. One of the things that I think that I'm noticing from what was proposed here is that we're expecting no impact, and I don't know that that's a good starting point.
May I ask a question? This might be more for you, Mr. Dutton. We've had reference to one county in Kentucky that's passed an ordinance with setbacks included. First of all, what's the status of the law in the state of Kentucky regarding these WEX systems and setbacks? Is there any sort of statutory criteria or framework that matches that in Illinois?
So that matches the framework in Illinois, the answer
Yeah.
to that is no.
Oh, is there any framework in Kentucky?
So there is, essentially the siting board has jurisdiction over wind turbines. There is a statutory setback for wind turbines. It's either 1,000 or 2,000 feet. I can't recall off the top of my head. It looks like he's got it right here. It's 1,000 feet from boundary of adjoining property owner and 2,000 from residential neighborhood, school, hospital, or nursing facility. And residential neighborhood is actually a defined term under state law. So you're looking at 1,000 and 2,000 foot setbacks.
And that's the regulation from the administrative agency, not a statute? Is that
That is
correct?
actually a statute.
Okay.
So that is passed by the legislature, and as part of that statute, they have also written into the state laws that there is a waiver available from those. So, for instance, a solar project, most of them request a waiver, and those are often taken under advisement. So the siting board that's the position that you start from when you go to the siting board, but the siting board has consistently looked at it and issued setbacks that are tailored to specific projects. So if it's 2,000 feet that's appropriate, they issue that, and sometimes they even carve up a project. So it's 2,000 feet from this particular church, it's 100 feet from this particular house, it's 100 feet from this particular park, that type of thing. They make very tailor-made setbacks for these large-scale utility energy projects at the state level.
Well, Mr. Bishop mentioned that there's one county that's passed an ordinance containing a 1-mile setback for any of these WEX systems, and that was in 2014, I believe. Has that been overruled, or has anyone from the state said that a county can't pass something like that, to your knowledge?
There has been no challenge there, and that's one of those situations where even if the law is on the books and if it's in direct conflict with the state, somebody has to challenge it to get it overturned. And at this point, I don't think that any of the developments in that county are far enough along to be having those discussions. Mason County is very focused on data centers right now, and so the energy development is not as far along in sort of
Right.
the weeds that we're talking about here tonight.
Is there any effort, and this is my final question, Mr. Chairman,
No, by all means.
is there, our legislature is currently in session right now, and there've been more than 1,000 bills introduced. Does your client or anyone else, have they tried to have a bill introduced that would be similar to Illinois with maximum setbacks so that counties can't regulate what this would be for any WEX developer, to your knowledge?
We, Cordelia Power, has not, and I'm not aware of any that have. Also want to clarify a point about the existing regulations for wind and solar facilities. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that was because that was the setbacks that were defined for coal facilities, coal power plants. And then because there were no regulations regarding renewables, it was added as a beginning point in 2014 or so.
Yeah, something like that.
And the other point I want to make is that there has not been a wind facility constructed in Mason County.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, he's correct. The siting board, 30-second history of the siting board. There was proposed to be essentially a merchant coal plant built in northern Kentucky back in the early 2000s. There were a number of statutes that were passed that established setbacks from that so that there was a baseline to move forward in terms of development. And so they passed 2,000 and 1,000-foot setbacks for coal plants, and then when they started considering solar and wind, they just applied them broadly to those as well because that's what they already had in the statute. That's part of the reason that they wrote in the waiver provision so that they could be better tailored to the exact project. And to answer your direct question, Mr. Hamilton, I'm not aware of anyone lobbying the state about a specific statewide wind ordinance at this point. Illinois also has sort of broader availability of wind resources. Kentucky has a number of places that just don't have as viable wind resources as many places in Illinois do.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask one question. Are they in wind turbine in Kentucky now?
There are no commercial scale wind turbines in Kentucky.
Okay, and what y'all plan on doing, how tall is that wind turbine y'all plan on bringing into Henderson County?
So the most efficient machines that are presently available on the market for us have tip heights of 697 feet. When the blade is straight up in the air, it extends 697 feet off the ground.
Yeah. And how many y'all plan on putting in this area?
We are proposing a total facility size of up to 200 megawatts with turbines of about 4.5 megawatts. So we're speaking in the order of 43 wind turbines.
Okay.
And one point I want to make here in tonight's discussion and throughout this process, we are one developer proposing a project here. So I know that we are the main topic, but we're also only looking in a very discrete area of the county. I'm aware of other developers that are looking for facilities across Kentucky, and we may see others approaching landowners in other parts of this county. So I just want to make that clear that I'm here to talk about my project and what I know, but I may not be the only voice in this state.
Staff, I believe that your discussion referenced a maximum height of 200 feet.
Yes. Which is predetermined by the county and city's ordinance. They both match one another for 200 feet.
There's no utility scale wind turbine that is that short. It's not economically feasible to pursue a facility with that limit.
Mr. Bishop, are there any other structures in Henderson County that exceed 200 feet, like the radio antennas in Wolf Hills?
Yes, there are, but they were constructed prior to 2014. Since 2014, to my knowledge, there's not been any structure other than the one smokestack at Century Aluminum, which is 213 feet in height, constructed. And they received a variance to get that height.
Thank you.
We installed 2 towers that are 197 feet tall, if that helps. To study the wind.
Thank you.
Anything else to share with us?
Unless there are other questions, that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Bishop?
Yeah, can I add a couple details whenever
Yes,
it's appropriate? So the 1,640 number comes from Vestas Documents, which I believe is the manufacturer that Cordelio uses. Their own documentation provided to the South Dakota and New York Public Service Commission recommend a setback of 1,300 to 1,640 feet for their own employees if there's a fire or a runaway wind turbine. That's the manufacturer's own recommendation. The 1 mile is not arbitrary as well. At this point, I've gone through dozens, if not hundreds, of other wind ordinances across the country, and 1 mile is not uncommon. There are some communities that have a setback up to 5 miles.
Thank you.
Send the check here.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen. Anyone else here this evening that wants to speak in favor of wind energy conversion systems in Henderson County? Okay, ask about attorneys in the same light. So would anybody here tonight like to speak in opposition to wind energy conversion projects in our county, or have questions maybe?
Would you like questions first, or?
We're just gonna take turns, okay? This lady will speak first.
We have a slide.
Your name, please, ma'am,
My name is Kelly England,
and your address?
13984 Highway 41 South, Roberts.
And do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please proceed, thank you.
Members of the commission, when we talk about turbines that are 720 feet tall, we are talking about structures taller than the Gateway Arch in St. Louis. The turbines being considered here would stand nearly 100 feet taller than that landmark. Understanding the scale helps frame the land use decision before you. The turbines proposed here would be the tallest structures in Henderson County. These turbines require large reinforced concrete foundations designed to support structural loads and continuous dynamic forces from rotating blades. When turbines are distributed across tens of thousands of acres, their placement becomes a significant land use decision affecting residents, farms, and public spaces. Wind turbines generate audible sound, low-frequency noise, and vibration from rotating blades and internal equipment. Research shows that annoyance increases as turbines are located closer to homes, with some studies linking this exposure to sleep disturbance and stress. The map shown here includes 93 proposed turbines across approximately 80 square miles. At this scale, noise and vibration are not isolated to a single location. They become a distributed land use consideration affecting homes and rural areas across the entire footprint. Property values are also an important land use consideration. The most widely cited peer-reviewed studies examining wind turbines and residential property values were conducted on turbines generally between 400 to 600 feet in total height. These studies consistently show that proximity and visibility influence residential property values, with the strongest effects occurring closest to turbines, typically within about 1 mile. No peer-reviewed property value studies currently evaluate turbines of this scale. This represents an evidence gap. Many setback ordinances currently in place were written when turbines were several hundred feet shorter than those being proposed. Under these circumstances, a 1 mile setback remains within the distance where property value effects have most frequently been documented and therefore may reasonably be viewed as a potential risk rather than a protective distance. When research gap exists but potential impacts may be significant, planning policy often relies on the precautionary principle. The precautionary principle holds that when there is credible risk of harm, but incomplete scientific evidence, decision makers may take protective action rather than wait for full proof after impacts occur. In land use planning, where infrastructure decisions can shape communities for decades, the principle supports careful siting standards when technologies are proposed at a scale not yet evaluated in the research. One of the most effective tools planning commissions use to apply precaution in land use planning setbacks help protect residences, public health, and safety. Make note that the proposed footprint includes 2 schools. Thoughtful setbacks help ensure compatibility between industrial infrastructure and address the safety protection of our family and property. One of the schools is my grandchildren's school also. And I'd also like to make one comment about the attorney from Louisville about the Kentucky Siting Board's robust procedure. A Sunday drive through Roberts would challenge the robustness of the Kentucky Siting Board. Thank you.
Ms. Eaglin?
Thank you, ma'am.
We have the PowerPoint in the record. Would you like your notes into the record, or is that just for you?
Can we ask a quick question? Where'd you get the map with the 91? Is that,
I made it.
what evidence, where'd the evidence come from those locations of the 91?
Ma'am, we need to get you sworn in
Yeah.
before you speak.
I'm sorry, I was just asking, I guess I can, so,
Okay, you're gonna go next?
I'm next anyway, so
Okay.
that works.
Your name, please?
Mr. Hampton?
Melody Thompson.
I can answer that really quick. So the 93 sites are based on lat longs that were submitted to the FAA by Cordelio Power, or the company that they're using to do that. So that is directly from the FAA.
Okay.
We created GIS maps that would show the location, so that way we can do geographic analysis of how far they are from schools, from structures, from addresses. So
Thank you.
the Plan Commission has that data.
and what, the property evaluations in some rural areas, which rural areas, where'd that data come from?
I have all those sources in a
Excuse me, we're gonna-
bibliography that I can,
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have,
Go ahead.
we need to
I'm
swear
sorry,
you in.
Mr. Chairman.
okay.
Your name, please, ma'am,
Melody Thompson,
your address,
4409 State Route 416 West Roberts,
and you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
always.
Thank you.
I was, where did you, or the previous speaker, where did she obtain the data for the land, for the diminution in value in rural areas of 7 to 14%?
I've got all those sources typed up and ready
I mean,
to get
which-
to everybody, so
like
if
which-
they will take a long time if we go through all of them.
What about just generally speaking, a state where this happened? Illinois, Indiana, do we know?
I'd have to look
Okay,
to verify which state it was,
all right, thank you. I'll
but
check.
there's more than one study, so.
Okay, thank you.
Should I begin?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you all for your attention. Members of the commission, land use and siting criteria are the umbrella over every category that we'll discuss for months. It's kind of encompasses every other category that we're gonna talk about. Some of the things I'm gonna start out with, I'm gonna go about an 1/8 inch deep because I have more information at a different time. It's real evident based on Mr. Bishop and our attorney here that it's hard to separate everything. There's gonna be some overlap. Let's see, give me ahead. What I'm gonna touch on very briefly is the fact that Henderson County lies along the Ohio River Migration Corridor and supports important populations of birds and bats. We'll talk a lot more about this at another date. But research has documented that bat mortality associated with wind turbines, especially in the migratory species in the Midwest, is a concern. Bald eagles, another vulnerable bird, represent an important conservation success story here in Henderson. Eagles disappeared in the 60s, and they were gone for 20 years. And then there is evidence in 1986 of the first nest that was recorded. It took them a long time to come back. Today, Western Kentucky contains one of the highest concentrations of bald eagles in the state. Wildlife habitat contributes to outdoor recreation, tourism, hunting and fishing economies, the natural landscapes. Our community promotes all of this. Henderson County promotes its natural It's natural landscape and outdoor recreation through the message, "Discover your nature." That slogan is everywhere in town. Introducing industrial structures at or near 720 feet tall across roughly 80 square miles, which is what that map covered, would change that landscape. Tourism represents a significant part of our economy. Visitors spent approximately $95.7 million in Henderson County in 2023, supporting 609 jobs, $17.8 million in labor income. Public materials associated with this project claim that the wind portion of the project could generate under $15 million in tax revenue over the life of the project, which is 30 years. Plus, renewable energy facilities also frequently use accelerated depreciation under the modified accelerated cost recovery system, meaning the taxable value can change over the life of the project. It's just an estimate. Because Henderson County's tourism economy relies heavily on scenic landscapes and outdoor recreation, land use decisions that alter this identity should be carefully evaluated before making decisions with long-term estimates rather than recurring annual economic activity. Agriculture is also central to our economy. The 2022 U.S. Census of Ag reports 438 farms operating on approximately 180,679 acres of farmland, generating $149 million in annual agricultural production. About 1/3 of Henderson's farms depend on leased land to maintain a viable operation. The Census of Agriculture indicates that about 340 hired farm workers are employed here every year. Agriculture also supports a broader network of local businesses that you can imagine, seed companies, trucking companies, much more. Because ag supports a broad network of employment and commerce, land use and siting criteria become critically important to determining how much productive farmland remains available for agricultural use. Because land use and siting standards determine where large-scale infrastructure can be placed, they also determine how Henderson County's landscape, economy, and natural resources will evolve for the next generation. Ensuring compatibility between industrial infrastructure and both tourism and agricultural concerns and our wildlife remains an important planning consideration. I really appreciate your time. I'll make sure that you have all the sources for all three of these PowerPoints. Some of the information that our attorney shared is in our guy from Cordelio is the first we'd ever heard of it. We'd not heard that height and we'd not heard that number. The only number that we had was 93, 720 feet tall. There's no research out there on turbines this tall.
Would you agree with the 1 mile setback as proposed?
No. I think a little more than that, because there is evidence on that 1 mile mark being still impacted negatively on property values and other things. A bigger, more conservative one would be more appropriate, especially in consideration of the fact that there is no research current that covers a turbine this tall. So what we're doing is we're basing our decisions on research that has evidence gaps. You can't say that it's definitely going to cover what that research has. So, no, I wouldn't. I think a more conservative setback would be appropriate given the fact that there is not clear evidence. So,
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
I haven't used one of these and
Can I clarify the map before we move on?
You come back to the microphone, please.
I've got a question for him as well when it comes up.
We can try this.
You back the map.
I'm trying.
While he's doing that, I would like to point out where that map came from that shows potential or prospective turbine locations. It's normal and customary for a developer to put a study into the FAA early in our development process to help us understand the restrictions, regulations, setbacks, or constraints that the aviation safety may impose on our project. We put in far more turbines than we propose to construct with a higher tip height to make sure that we have covered the area significantly so that we know where limits may exist, so that when our project is actually proposed and sited, we know where we can put them. So this layout extends farther in every direction than our current project area and land footprint covers. So our project will not be this big because we don't have land rights to put turbines in some of those locations.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Steve Rame, 13430 Middle Delaware Road.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, sir. Can I ask a question, Mr. Vogt? So it was either you or your attorney, if I heard you right, you mentioned that there were approximately 21,000 acres of proposed farmland that could be utilized for industrial wind turbines. Did I hear you right?
Yeah, that's what I have.
Yeah, yes, I did say that we have over 21,000 acres of land under agreement to participate in our project today.
Could you say it to Mike a minute, so Mr. Chairman may I?
Yes, by all means, Counselor.
Thank you. Would you provide us with a more updated map of what you do propose to develop, even if it may change as it goes along?
Without a siting standard that we need to follow, anything that we do will be completely made up and not useful for this purpose. I cannot do that.
Do you understand that this planning commission and the residents of this county are extremely skeptical when you won't share information with us, and you've repeatedly refused?
Excuse me. First of all, I think that's a mischaracterization of the situation, respectfully. What he is saying is that until it's clear what the requirements are for the setbacks, the heights, things like that, you can't give specific information about where these are going to be located because you don't have all the facts. There are so many variables at play right now that to say where any of these were going to be located would be effectively a guess because we don't know the site restrictions, the height limits, we haven't done the geotechnical, there are a number of landowner agreements that are at play. So there's just so many variables that saying today, specifically where any turbine is gonna go, is throwing a dart at a board.
Would Cordelio agree to a moratorium until you are able to provide that information? Even though you say it's a mischaracterization, I'm sharing with you what the feeling of this planning commission and this community is.
Yes, and so that's part of the reason that we proposed an ordinance to this commission, right? If we have today the restrictions that we proposed in that ordinance, if you'll take a look at it, it's pretty robust. I mean, it's 5 pages, single spaced. If we had those today, then we could start doing the studies and start actually bringing in the experts to figure out exactly where these turbines are gonna go. But it's so early in the development process that you can't specifically say where any of these are gonna go.
And it's difficult, if not impossible, for this planning commission to make a recommendation to the county when we don't have the information.
One thing, I think what we're trying to do today is to establish a process to get you that information. We are fully supportive of bringing in a specific site plan. It's just, we're not sure even what the process is to develop a site plan. I know I'm cutting you off, so.
No, thank you. The siting and zoning ordinance that would apply to a project is only one piece of many that we need to consider when we design a layout. As noted, birds and bats are a concern. We've had conversations with the state and federal wildlife agencies. We've begun some of the necessary studies to help inform us on what resources are out there. We need to have further studies completed once we have the idea of where we can put a turbine or an access road or collection circuit before we can go out and look for wetlands, other rare plants and other sensitive species and resources, and go out and do geotechnical surveys. Until we know where some facilities may actually be located, we're not going to invest the investment to go out and assess the entire 21,000 acres of property. That's just not feasible for development of this scale.
So,
At the end of the day, a wind farm having 43 turbine locations will permanently impact about 43 acres of land. During construction, we may have about 8 to 10 acres per, so potentially in the order of 300 or 400 acres. That's a very small subset of the broad property that we have under lease agreement. This is a process that requires a number of areas to all come together before a layout can be put together and shared. So to say the point again, we cannot give a layout based on an ordinance that doesn't exist, nor site studies that have not yet been completed.
okay, let me ask the
It's a
question another
chicken-
way. Could,
It's a chicken and an egg. You want us to give you an ordinance without you giving us any information.
Well, I think that's, again, incorrect. I think we have provided an ordinance that lays out the issues that we would recommend that you look at and that you ask us about. We have made recommendations for reasonable development. We have recommended looking at the Illinois statute, which has been thoroughly vetted and developed and utilized throughout that state. We're happy to provide as much information as we have. But this is like any other development process before this commission. You don't build a Wendy's before you know what the setbacks and the restrictions are gonna be for the Wendy's, right? We have to understand what is the process and the restrictions for that before we can give you a fully developed site plan.
so let me ask my question another way.
Yes.
Would it be potentially possible to provide a map of the 21,000 acres that potentially could be developed pending on our ordinance?
May I piggyback that? So, to what Kevin's point, what I believe he's trying to make is you have the defined 21,000 acres based on polygons and parcel data, correct? So why can't we just use GIS to reference that with the 93 sites, and then there's your shortcut? There's a starting point to discuss. That's an easy process
I'm not
that
sure
can be
what you
done in
mean
5
with the,
So we have a defined boundary. We have a defined number. You use GIS to basically do search, and you do the functions of GIS that we do every day. So you have a boundary, and it will tell you how many sites are within the defined boundary that you already have. It can be done in less than 5 minutes.
But while I understand what you're asking for, what I'm going to say is the 93 turbines that we proposed to the FAA have not been vetted for any site conditions, environmental conditions, or anything regarding setbacks. They will not comply with either the ordinance that we proposed or the one that you proposed from a setback or other constraints perspective. It will be meaningless to do that exercise, even if it takes 5 minutes.
Okay, I think we understand your answer. Thank you. The gentleman that was trying to speak, I think we have you sworn in, correct?
I do think it's interesting. I just kind of want to make a comment in response. They were able to provide that, but they can't provide what they're being asked to provide now. It's just interesting to me. I don't know what just happened, but to me, that's interesting. I've got this, I've got the third part of this presentation that Ms. Thompson provided, so before I make these remarks, I cannot speak to this data, but I know that she has the data. It's been sent to Mr. Bishop, and it is available for anyone to read if you do so choose to. So if you do ask me questions, I will try my best to answer, but I'm not an expert on this data. Ms. Thompson gathered it, and it is in the record. Let me see if I can. We're going to talk about mining and geology first. And I'm going to try to dovetail a couple of thoughts that, that I had based on what they were speaking about. So I would like to discuss several geological and long-term planning considerations as you discuss land use for this industrial project. Henderson County lies within the western Kentucky coal field where underground coal mining occurred for decades. I submitted this picture to this screenshot to Mr. Bishop earlier today. I'm going to pass it around for the Planning Commission members to see. The green highlighted portions are inactive underground mines in Henderson County. I don't have a total land use here, but I would say it's approximately 30% of the county.
say these are inactive?
Those are inactive. There's a way on that website, which is at the top of the screen, where you can also click active, but it brings up big, square, rectangular, orange blobs, and so I didn't want to confuse anybody, and so I left those off. Those are just the inactive portions. I believe that Mr. Bishop said earlier that that coal land cannot be rezoned. Did I hear that correctly?
According to the county's existing zoning ordinance, once it goes through the reclamation process and all the bonding has been released through the county and state level, it reverses back to its previous zoning classification. So for example, if it was rezoned from ag to surface mining, once reclamation's complete, it goes back to ag.
This is not dealing with surface mining. This is underground mining,
This is
right?
underground coal mine, and that was a distinction I wanted to make as well. Through Cordelia's binder, it mentions different places where surface mines are used, but there's only one actual place where they have, that I could tell in their binder, where they built turbines on underground coal mines, and that was only a portion of the project. The coal mines that are being advocated to be used across the nation are strip mines, not underground coal mines. Big, big difference. So, with that,
So, let me ask a question.
Yes, sir.
In this map?
Yes, sir.
These are all underground, inactive mines.
According to that website, yes.
Okay.
And that's a website that's accessible for anybody to see.
Mr. Bishop, which one of the files is this saved in our?
That is not in, by the time I sent the link, I didn't have Mr. Rame's data.
It was
but
about 5 after
it
4,
is-
my apologies.
Okay.
But it is on the thumb drive that we've given Brent. Brent, can you open up the thumb drive and we can show it?
Well, feel free.
I know I've gone through a lot of, all the documents are in there, so.
Can you go to the thumb drive, Brent?
While he's bringing that up, can I make another point here? So so there's currently approximately 6,000 acres of Henderson County farmland that have already been committed to solar farms. Out of the 180,000 acres of farmland in Henderson, that brings it to about 3.3% of total farmland that's being used currently. If you add the 21,000 proposed acres, which I think that they mentioned was more of a meager number, that would actually take the number or the percentage of Henderson farmland up to 15% being utilized for both solar farms and industrial wind turbines. Now, even if they shrink it down to the 43 or so proposed, what they're saying is that takes up about 43 acres of directly used land, which would give each industrial wind turbine about a 1 acre footprint. But the entire project would cover approximately 21,000 acres by their own admission. 15% of our county, with structures that are taller than the St. Louis Arch.
So, Mr. Rame, that means also that 15% of the people, of the landowners of farmland in our county want this to happen.
So are you saying that there's only 600?
Is that, I guess that's more of a question, when you look at it from the other direction, if his testimony is correct, that 21,000 acres are under contract for this, that's 15% of the tillable ground. Those people actually want this to happen. Am I reading that right?
I don't know. You would have to do the research to determine what percentage of the farmers. I don't know if this is 10 farmers or 50 farmers or 20 farmers. I don't really know. I would think that it would be no more than 40. If you had one industrial wind turbine on 43 different properties, you're looking at 43 farmers. I doubt that's the
I
case.
mean, I'm talking about the tillable, you mentioned the tillable ground. It's
Right.
15% of the tillable ground.
Right,
So-
but that doesn't mean that it's owned by that much of the population. So I think you may be making a faulty comparison. I don't have that
I'm
data in
asking
front of
you,
me.
I'm just asking the question.
I'm not sure. I would highly doubt that all of that is equally dispersed.
Understood, me too.
Commissioner Hampton, the surface mining zone is pretty much all owned by Penn, Virginia, and roughly 12 to 13,000 acres of that is one owner, which is Penn, Virginia.
Okay, thank you.
Are you, because of the questions, I think you've been forced to go over your time. Are you close to?
Yeah, I mean, I can go pretty quickly through the rest of it.
Okay. Or we can
I
get-
need to wait for the slide.
We can give someone else a chance to speak.
Sure, I would gladly step away.
Okay, yeah, good. Thank you, sir. We can come back. Yes, ma'am, your name,
Hello, my name is Hannah Heron,
address?
16806 State Route 136 East Roberts, Kentucky.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Very good, thank you.
So today we are talking about the land use and the sitting criteria. I have a couple things to go over. I think that a main thing that I don't think has been discussed is that there's a Doppler radar in Indiana that is fairly close to here. Posey County vetoed a wind turbine site because of the effect that it could have on the radar. The National Weather Service has multiple articles that go into how this can affect the radar. One article states that it can mask the radar, which means it can clutter it up. This means that meteorologists can misinterpret what's going on. It reduces warning times, it can be hazardous during severe weather, and it can affect the surrounding counties. We don't know what the wind turbine height, how that is going to display on the radar. We don't know what it's going to look like. It could affect the surrounding counties, not just ours. I believe to say that affecting 43 acres is not a reasonable estimate. I've heard that some people have said, I don't know where exactly this has been said, that these wind turbines would be able to be seen in the middle of Vanderburgh County. This doesn't affect just us. I'd now like to go into the risks of the turbines. So these sites are close to people's homes that we saw on there. I know that the Cordella has said that that's not a for sure thing, but I'm sure that they know who they have contacted to purchase land from. So I believe that they do have an idea of this land that they're going to use. And so the National Library of Medicine discussed the different protective measures that should be in place for when wind turbines are built. I have this evidence here that I'll hand out at the end with all of my articles and where I got my information. But in that study, there was 143 accidents a year from wind turbines. Out of this, there was 19% blade failure, 15% was a fire, and then structural failure was 9.7%. And in that data, it was also shown that some of the blades flew almost a mile away. And some of these turbine heights, as it's been discussed tonight, were 970 feet tall, or 697 feet tall, sorry. A mile away is not enough. Some of the sites that were on the FAA were close to schools. One was 0.2 of a mile from Spotsville Elementary School. I have the site location from the FAA on my paper here that y'all can look at. I would now like to move into talking more about safety with the fire stuff as well. So on 136, there's been proposed sites when you look at the map. On 136 and 41, there's been a fire hydrant that's been removed on the corner. Also on 136, there's a fire hydrant that's not usable. If you all remember, there was a terrible accident that happened on 136, an explosion. The firefighters were not able to use that fire hydrant. I don't see how we can reasonably say that we could have a turbine that's 697 feet in the air and that our firemen could safely put out that fire or help negate that risk. I don't think that's a fair conclusion. Also, going on to structural failure. As it's been gone over tonight, many of the sites are proposed on old coal mining land. This is not just surface mine, it's underground. The University of Kentucky did a geological survey in 2004. I have that link here so y'all can look at it. But in the study, it was stated that a geologic hazard of Henderson County are the several coal mines. Precautions need to be taken when developed over mined areas. They are prone to settling after reclamation and may affect structural integrity of roads and structures. That's a huge thing with the Penn, Virginia, that was proposed with many of those sites. I don't think that would be safe to do that. I also have a study by Virginia Tech that goes into some of the details of what it takes to build on old coal mining land. I definitely believe that somebody else is more skilled with that information of what's needed to build on top of old mining lands. And I believe that we have numerous people in Kentucky and Indiana and the surrounding areas that could talk about that. Now, let's see, I'm gonna look back over some of my stuff from what has been said today. So, Cordello was talking about building a 693 feet, 970 foot tall wind turbine. I'm wondering if they've ever built one that tall. I know that in the US, the tallest one is built by Texas A&M and it's 653 feet tall. The tallest one in Canada is 450 feet tall. All this information about data and research, I don't think that we can clearly state that that is for sure, because have they done that before? Has anybody in the United States done research on the wind turbine that tall? Has anybody done that research in Canada? I'm not for sure.
Okay, excuse me, ma'am, we've run over your time.
Okay.
So, we're gonna give somebody else a chance and then you can come back, okay?
Can I hand out, I'm finished, can I hand out my,
Oh, by all
papers?
means, yes.
Mr. Chairman, while she, can I address the intake of documents real quick?
Yes, please.
So we're requesting two documents. One, the physical copy that you give to Heather that will actually physically go in the file. Heather writes exhibit A, B, C, so that way we physically track what was entered. I'm requesting a digital copy that be emailed to me, so that way I can put in the Dropbox link and then share it with everybody. It's easier for us to share digital copies as opposed to you guys coming in the office, doing Freedom of Information Act request and paying for copies. It's just a simple process. But there's two things we need to satisfy. The actual legal record and then shareability.
Okay, if a digital copy is not available, is there a workaround?
There is. We can take the physical document, scan it, and then add it that way. It's just a little more labor intensive. We'll get it done. It's just easier if I get the emails.
I'm sure everybody will be as helpful as possible. While we're on this topic then, Mr. Bishop, use of summaries or submission of summaries, would you like to address that?
I'm sorry, say that.
Summaries,
Summaries for
the documents.
documents. So yes, the summaries we would request, it's not a requirement. I think Commissioner Hamilton kind of touched on this. I think the Plan Commission and Plan Commission staff would encourage anybody providing documentation to give a brief summary of it. So like if it's a 30-page document, if you could give a short summary of it, it's easier for these guys to deal with that much data being thrown at them. Not a requirement, just a suggestion.
Yeah, we're just encouraging that.
So can I give out both? I have the online stuff that I can email, but can I also give each of you a copy?
Yes. Who's gonna?
Can I respond to a couple comments?
Okay, sure.
Thank you. We'll share one if you have enough copies. Oh, okay, cool, good deal.
And this map is also on the link that I have provided with another link that I'm going to hand out, so y'all can look at it more better. This is the geologic survey by the University of Kentucky. There's a bigger map and more information that y'all can look at.
Thank you.
Okay, Tim Volk again. Want to address 4 points that were, comments that were made. First, the radar. Part of the FAA studies that are done incorporate reviews of radar units for weather, aviation safety, and national defense. All of those will be looked at, and we will have government review before we get approval to build any turbines in the county. The second is, I first met with the Department of Mining in Kentucky in 2022. We are very aware of the historic use of the land in this county. We are very aware of both the surface and subsurface activities. We do not plan to site turbines on mined areas. We will coordinate with the available agencies that have the data, and we will do our own geotechnical testing. We will do boreholes at every turbine location before one is constructed. We can place turbines around disturbed areas. The foundation's widths are typically 85 feet in diameter, so it's relatively easy to site the turbines around those disturbed areas. Comment on fires. We do not expect first responders to put out a fire at the top of a turbine. Yes, there are rare occasions when turbines catch fire. As was noted, we do plan and propose that a first responder and safety plan is prepared and presented and provided to the county. We will train first responders. The typical response that is expected from county resources is to help establish a perimeter around a fire so that it does not spread. So if a turbine is burning, there will not be a person in the turbine trying to put out the fire. That is unsafe and unnecessary. It's a machine, it can be replaced. Lives cannot. We will not put people at risk to put out a fire. And I think that's it for these comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got one question to ask again.
Sure.
Them turbine y'all talking about, where are they built?
So there are several turbine manufacturers. We have recently been purchasing a majority of our products from a company called Vestas. They have factories in Colorado.
I didn't think no turbine was built in the United States, oh, they all came from overseas.
Majority of the ones installed in the U.S. are built in the U.S. GE has a facility in Pensacola, Florida. Nordex Acciona has a facility in West Branch, Iowa. There are other facilities across the country for the turbine nacelle, which houses the generator. Additional facilities are built around the country to make the blades and the tower sections. Those are typically contracted out from the major manufacturer to subcontractors to make those parts. Most of them are made here in the United States. The companies that brought the industry here, many of them are European, yes, but they have since established manufacturing capacity in the United States. And the last point that I wanted to make on the last comment is that we have constructed the largest turbines in the United States. 697-foot turbines exist in our facility in Cross County, Arkansas.
Tim, is that the V-163?
It is.
4.5? Okay.
Yes.
Tim, can I ask a question?
Could I ask a question? Go
first?
ahead.
By all means, Commissioner.
Okay. And I'm not asking for names, but there's been questions about how many lease arrangements have y'all made with individuals in the area that you're proposing to build turbines? Can you tell me how many lease agreements has been made?
Good point that you're saying lease agreements. We're not purchasing property here, we are leasing property. And the approximate number now is 35.
Okay. And you got one big one, which we all know
Correct.
about, but then you got 34 others.
Correct.
Okay.
May I ask
Counselor?
a question? Would you clarify, you are going to,
And loads that the turbines will generate.
Thank you. Other questions? Maybe give somebody else. Sir. Your name, sir?
James Franks,
Your address?
2301 Twanthoston.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Very good. Thank you.
I have a question for the commission. It's been brought up, but about the process tonight. My understanding was tonight was for folks to come forward, submit documentation to you, 3-minute clock, and then move on for someone else. Is that correct?
No. No, this is the speaking rules were expanded to 5 minutes
Uh-huh.
in response to someone in the audience at one of these meetings making that request. This is the first of our series of hearings where we're trying to gather information
Yes, sir.
based upon requests from fiscal court that we do so.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we were doing. That's
You're
why
doing a
we're
great
listening.
job. My only question was, it's been brought up that it's kind of a Q&A session. Someone comes and they submit, and it's like there's almost a trial going on. There's one, you're considering an ordinance for anybody that wants to do business in the future in this county. There happens to be one developer here, which we appreciate that he's here sharing his data, but it could be a long night if this is a Q&A session. And will the public have time to come back and ask him questions? If I didn't read that or understand that in your opening comments about the process and the way it was gonna flow tonight.
Okay, we're gonna go to 9 o'clock,
Uh-huh.
and we'll be back here tomorrow night at 6 to 9.
So we are allowed to.
If that's not enough, we'll be back the next night.
Okay, I just wanna make sure that, so we
Okay.
are, it's okay to ask the questions back and forth.
I think that we're making, frankly, actually making some progress with these
I
questions.
agree,
so-
I agree. I just want to make
so-
sure the process was clear for
Yeah,
everybody. So thank
I'm
you.
sorry if I didn't make that clear.
No, it was just, seemed to be taking a different path than when we started, so
Well, you just never, I quit making predictions, okay?
I understand.
Okay, your name, sir,
Chuck Tucker,
and your address.
9124 Farley Road, Spotsville.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Planning Commission, to hear me. My wife, Dawn, and I live in Spotsville. We've lived there for approximately 27 years. We built a home, bought land, built a home there. Back in the coal mine days, we watched the ebb and flow of green coal, the pillage and plunder of thousands of acres. Took 27 years to reclaim it all, and it's not all done today. But here we go. This is round two for us and our neighbors in our little community, Spotsville, Bluff City, Edwardsville area. We've already seen firsthand what happens with large-scale energy. Projects move forward without fully accounting for local impact. The dissatisfaction across our county following the recent solar developments in the Roberts of sunrise and sunsets. These are not small aesthetic luxuries. They're in part of our identity. They're in part of our identity, our heritage, and our quality of life. The visual impact alone is significant. These turbines would tower over homes, fields, and communities, permanently altering the character of our landscape. Once installed, there's no going back. The quiet rural beauty that draws people to live here and invest here would be replaced with industrial presence visible for miles in every direction, and that is every direction. 35 miles by my cheap search on Google, it's visible for the towers of these heights, 35 miles in any direction. That's at over 400 feet elevation, some of the highest ground in Henderson County. So you put a 700-foot tower on top of a 400-foot hill, do the math. This is not just about what we see, it's also about what we stand to lose economically. Property values, we've heard tonight, everything is affected. Large-scale energy developments have been a growing concern nationwide, and we are already hearing those concerns being echoed here. Families have invested their life savings in a home, should not have to bear the burden of depreciating values due for a project they did not ask for. Equally important is the issue of agricultural production. Henderson County is at its core a farming community. Our land is not just open space, it is working land. It feeds our families, supports livelihoods, sustains our local economy. Introducing massive turbine infrastructure into these areas raises serious questions about long-term crop production, soil compaction, drainage disruption, and access to fields. Even small inefficiencies when multiplied across seasons and acreage can result in meaningful losses to our farmers. And no one's talked about the other infrastructure, the lines, power lines, the substations, everything that connects these farms. We must also consider the precedent we set. If we approve projects of this scale without addressing the concerns already raised by our community, what message does this send? That local voices are secondary, that rural communities are forced behind your decision. This is not a rejection of renewable energy. It is a call for who live agricultural county where residents have already expressed dissatisfaction with similar developments is not one of them. We have a duty to balance progress with preservation, to weigh not just short-term gains but long-term consequences, and to ensure that decisions made today do not permanently diminish the character, value, and productivity of our community. And just one last thing I would like to say is rezoning from agriculture or residential to industrial in a rural community, that's just not welcome. That's not why I moved to where I live now. I try to get away from the industrial areas. And I don't want it coming to me, and I don't think most of us that live out there want it either. We have such things as gateway districts in Henderson. You know, we have ordinances that restrict and protect what we want to achieve. You know, I value the folks that live on the river downtown that's got an unobstructed view of the sunset every evening. Well, I've got an unobstructed view right now of the sunrise. But when these towers are built, if they're built, where they say they're built. I'll have towers on 3 sides of my house, within a quarter of a mile with one and half a mile, 2 more. So I urge you to listen to the concerns of the Henderson County residents, consider the cumulative impact, and ultimately create an ordinance that bans large-scale wind energy in Henderson County. And one last graphic, I did put some numbers together today. Henderson County has a population density of approximately 103 people per square mile. These other large-scale wind turbine projects up in northern Indiana, 22 people per square mile, 42 people per square mile, 23, 21, 23. I think you get my point.
Very good.
I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. Okay. Your name, please?
My name is Rebecca Wood, and I live at 12915 Highway 41 Alternate in Henderson.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Please proceed.
I thank you all for taking the time to seriously consider all the testimony that's going to be presented over the next few months. As you prepare the ordinance to recommend to the fiscal court, I trust that you have the best interest of the majority of, or the largest number of people in our county. I am providing these statements tonight based on the initial plan that Cordelio has said that they've told us tonight. That's not really exactly what they're going to do, but that's where I've focused on. Within 5 miles of the project, the list that I handed there, and will provide a digital copy, there are 3 parks, 2 schools, 15 active community churches, and 1 agritourism business.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Why don't you go ahead and read the list for us? That way we can get it onto the record that way. Would that be appropriate?
I have the list.
Okay. Tell us again what this list represents.
They are public gathering places. So they are schools, they are parks, they are recreational facilities, and we have 1 agritourism business that's within 5 miles of the proposed site.
Okay, thank you.
We have Belfield ball fields, basketball fields, Sandy Lee Watkins Park, Spotsville Elementary, Greystone Academy, Cache Creek Church, DuPay Baptist Church, Fairview General Baptist, Spotsville Missionary Baptist, Spotsville United Methodist, Mount Zion General Baptist, St. Augustine Catholic, Beals Pentecostal, Advanced Baptist, Basket Christian Church, Pleasant Valley, Belfield Baptist, Niagara United Methodist, Elevated Church and Youth, Zion Baptist, and then I also on here put the Henderson Sports Complex, because that complex is within 5 miles, less than 5 miles from a proposed BEST, which I understand we're not talking about that tonight. And then Bushery, Winery, and Vineyards.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir. These gathering places offer benefits to our rural communities. They are a place to learn, a place to gather, a place to play, a place to worship, a place to laugh, and a place to mourn. They are a place that we can live life together. Besides weekly services, the churches have hosted baby dedications, weddings, showers and receptions, and funerals. They have been there for multiple generations, some dating back to the early 1900s and possibly even the late 1800s. 2 of the recreational parks may not be used as much as they have in the past. However, there is a potential for these parks to promote activities for our underserved young people in our community. The other park, Sandy Lee Watkins Park, will be situated right in the middle of the proposed site. The county has much money invested in this park. In fact, they just recently did an upgrade to the shelter there for about $250,000 to put in public restrooms, and that's a good project. I like that that's there, but you know, we've got a lot of money invested there. Student education is vital to a thriving community. Spotsville Elementary and Greystone, as I have mentioned, are both within 5-mile radius. And then I also mentioned about the locally owned agritourism business. It may not get as much visibility in our county as others have, but it is a thriving business, and they operate their own winery there. The people of our county deserve to enjoy access to these public spaces unhindered by industrial scale energy projects. My sentiment, one that is shared by many others, would be that you recommend prohibition. But I realize that you have been tasked to write an ordinance. You have the opportunity to see no harm done to the largest number of people by placing restrictions to mitigate risk to health, happiness, and environment. Please consider strict setbacks. And as Mr. Bishop said, a starting place was 1 mile. I do not agree with that. I think it needs to be further back. As you go on to listen to some of the health and environmental issues that could be caused by these, I think that you might come to the same agreement that I do. We have young people that have high sensitivity to noise or shadow flicker, and that would be a very serious thing, you know, for them. The height restriction, I agree with what Mr. Bishop has said, and I have one final comment. Oh no, I want to say about we've been talking about
Excuse me, ma'am.
audible. Am I done?
Well, you're not done.
Okay.
But you've gone over your time.
Okay.
By a bit, but I asked you to do so. But if you don't mind, you can come back, that'd be fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can I move this? Can I take it off?
I suppose, yeah.
I hope it doesn't feedback. Before I make my last few remarks, I would like to, was it you that came up and spoke a little while ago? Thank you. We weren't able to clap our hands for you. You did an excellent job. Would you please clap your hands for her? She did a wonderful job. I have a few documents. This is the paper copy of all 3 of the presentations that we have done with the PowerPoint, and then this is also a paper copy that shows that Henderson is now in Tornado Alley. So 2 main points that I want to make. Number 1, as I just shared, we are now in Tornado Alley. If you are familiar with the area and if you're from here, you'll realize that just over 4 years ago, Mayfield, Kentucky, Dawson Springs, Kentucky, and basically every town in western Kentucky, from Mayfield up to Louisville, was pretty well destroyed by an F4 tornado. Some of those tornadoes have come pretty close. I live out in the Roberts, Niagara area, and we had a tornado that came through last year that was close enough. Debris from the debris ball was lodged up in our trees in the back part of our woods. And so that's a point that hasn't been made tonight in terms of land use, as we are now in Tornado Alley. Number 2, we are very close to the New Madrid seismic zone. And so we're not just close to tornadoes. If there was to be an earthquake, then we're pretty close to a major fault line right here in the heartland of America. I want to read a comment, and this is taken from tab 13, page 22, from Cordelia's binder. It says, ambitious solar deployment would utilize a relatively small percentage of U.S. land when compared to the land currently being used for agriculture. the Department of Energy estimated that total U.S. solar development, this was particularly talking about solar panels, would take up roughly 10.3 million acres in a scenario in which cumulative solar deployment reaches 1,050 to 1,570 gigawatts by 2050. This is the important part. The highest land use scenario that the Department of Energy assessed in its 2021 Solar Future Study identified that if all 10.3 million acres of solar farms were sited on farmland, they would occupy approximately 1.15% of that acreage of farmland. So by the Department of Energy's own analysis, what they were projecting as the most liberal example of farmland being used for alternative energy, it clocked out at 1.15%. As I said earlier, currently in Henderson County, with 6,000 acres of solar panels already being committed, 6,000 acres of solar panels, that already means that Henderson has allotted 3.3% of its farmland to alternative energy. If we were to agree to allot another 21,000 acres, then that would put us up to 15%. Members of the Planning Commission, I submit to you that by the Department of Energy's own liberal estimate, the high end being 1.15% of farmland being used across America, we've already doubled that in Henderson. We've done our fair share. We're not necessarily against alternative energy. Honestly, I would love the conversation about how we could expand the energy production in the area so that we could lower production. But building 697-foot industrial wind turbines that would absolutely ravage the interior of our county to the tune of 21,000 acres and up to 15% of our farmland, it's completely unacceptable. This is a wild idea. Now, my time is up. That's all I have to share, but I do want to invite you all, and I know this is a little bit out of line, but on March 28th at Harbor House over on Clay Street, we're going to be having a get-together for the men, the homeless men that are in the homeless shelter at the Harbor House. We're going to be cooking food, we're going to be spending a couple of hours with them, and then we're going to have a church service to worship Jesus with them. You all are invited. You all are invited as well. I'd love to see you there. It's just going to be a day where everything's free, but if anybody would feel led to give donations, it will be all given to the Harbor House to help their mission in reaching the homeless here in our community. So thank you all for your time, and we might get out of here before 9 o'clock.
There you go.
Yes, your name, please?
Deirdre McConaughey, 10512 Airline Road, Henderson, Kentucky.
Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and
I
nothing
do.
but the truth?
Does anyone need to stand up? Just a seventh inning stretch? No?
Very good. Thanks for asking.
Well, my life has gotten really topsy-turvy, and if you don't mind, please don't start my clock until I distribute these to you.
Okay?
You guys mind passing them down? You just spread it, I'll take it over to you. I have a few for the audience if anyone would like. Okay. Everybody can get hold of one. Don't be nervous about this big folder. I know I've made people nervous about my folder use. This is really the main thing that you will be looking at tonight. And that is, when I have changed what I wanted to speak to you guys about, since the schedule got readjusted and everyone's flexible, I began in a certain way, and then yesterday I ditched everything and did a whole different thing. And then this morning I woke up and went, no, that's not it, because what we're here to do, the goal is that we are here to write this ordinance, right? That's what we're tasked with. And I realized that that's where I needed to give my focus, to give you information about what are other ordinances, what do they say? And I trust that Brian is so accurate that he has done the research of hundreds, dozens. And I too have done some research, and I'd like to share
just the tip of the iceberg, and also say, trust Brian when he says he has found these ordinances. What you have in front of you is a portion of a document from Columbia Law School, Sabin Center for Climate Change Law. And what it is this very big document that I'm not giving to all of you, but it will be given to the Planning Commission for the Dropbox. And it goes state by state and describes the status of projects and how they, and at what state of opposition they're in. And sometimes it cites projects that have been prevailed and succeeded. And in some cases, they cite projects that are canceled. And it's just a rich source about all across the country, because Henderson County is not fighting this. It's a national concern. So that will be available to you. But in the portion that I've pulled out for you, it's only for the state of Indiana. And the reason for that is that at the time this was prepared in 2021, which makes this on the edge of being sort of out of date because so much has happened since. But it's useful as a history to see, even as far back as before 2021, what some communities had done. So Kentucky had none, so I went to look at our neighbors, Indiana. And I have some questions I would like to ask after I finish this. So I'm racing to try and use my time to get to my questions. So for example, the first county that pops up for Indiana is Allen County. And as of 2018, they are cited as having, they only allow small wind systems to be permitted. You can scan this. It's so easy to read. And I just, pick out another one for you. At the bottom, I don't know how to pronounce this county name. Kosciuszko?
Kosciuszko.
All right, I'll let you, every time, back me up. That county requires that wind turbine setbacks of 6.5 times the turbine height from property lines. It limits turbine noise to 32 decibels, and it requires 0 shadow flicker, and limits construction to dedicated industrial zones. Now, I have before we leave this document you have in front of you, so flip around, you'll find some that appeal to you more. You look at Montgomery County. This is in 2019. They rendered, they called for setbacks 5 times turbine height. It requires setbacks of 1 mile from a town or a school, a maximum of 32 decibels, and 0 shadow flicker. So our coming up with a 1 mile or a reduced decibel level or so on is not something entirely novel. There have been communities that have, with courage and their own research, come to these conclusions. So I leave you to look at that document. I do have can you say the word, please?
Kosciuszko.
I have the full ordinance for them, and they did an interesting thing because they wrote their first ordinance in 2016. They found it lacking and set a whole number of 17 pages of text amendments to their 2016 ordinance in 2018. That quickly, they are fabulous text amendments, things I hadn't even considered, and if you haven't found them, Brian, that we can point out. So I give you that to have in your Dropbox. A little bit more recently, I offer to you the ordinance from our neighbor, Posey County, Indiana. And so here's the whole ordinance. I'll put it in the Dropbox and not drag you through it. But it's been mentioned here tonight. Here again in Posey County, they say that the maximum WEX turbine shadow flicker at non-participating landowners' dwelling shall be 0. Well, okay. Another thing that occurs frequently throughout these ordinances is the inclusion of a property value guarantee, which Posey County has. So look out for the property value guarantee, and there are many different ways, flavors that can be handled, but it can be in the ordinance. The last ordinance I want to offer to you is one that's actually undergoing review right now. This is a draft from December 10th, 2025, and it comes from Boone County, Indiana. And the short of it is, it's a really interesting, they have taken a very different approach to renewable energy in that they have created an ordinance that they call for an energy overlay district. And so they're including solar, BESS, and wind in this energy overlay district. It's an interesting concept. Now, I won't drag you through all of that because tonight's for wind, but I will read you what they have to say about turbine. It's one line. It's one line.
One line.
A commercial WEX is prohibited within unincorporated areas under the jurisdiction of the Boone County.
You can come back.
If I have questions for some of the
Yes.
previous speakers, that be the time to do it at comeback time?
Well, we need to give somebody else a chance to speak
Sure.
right now. And everybody can come back.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, please. Your name?
Sharon Bum.
Your address?
And 2321 Alvis Ferry Road, Henderson, Kentucky.
Good. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I sure do.
Very good. Thank you.
I guess from what I'm hearing, Cordelia wants Henderson County residents and Henderson County to be their test site for these large turbines because evidently they don't have that much to back it up, okay? I know that most of these turbines are taxpayer subsidies. They're produced by the production tax credit. And whenever those subsidies run out, 70 to 90% of the farms or the solar farms usually go bankrupt, or else they move out, they sell to somebody else, and they leave the residents behind. So we all know that I don't have any, up there. But anyway, it's all about the money, okay? It's all about the money. I live in an area that is kind of like this. This isn't my actual picture, but thousands of acres around me, and I love it, okay? This is what you're wanting my farm to look like. This is the batteries, okay? This is what you guys want our farms to look like, okay? This is another picture of, this is what happens whenever these companies lose all their tax subsidies, okay? It's left behind, okay? So, now, one thing that hasn't mentioned yet is the roads, okay? I'm gonna use 1078 as a Highway 1078, I live out by there. Anyway, the trucks and the trailers and the blades, I looked it up, weigh about 53 to 58 tons, okay? Our 1078 was built in about an estimate of 1953, okay? The average tonnage on our road is 5 to 20 tons, okay? The road size, the width, is 15 to 18 feet, okay? So they're wanting to bring these huge trucks down our roads. They're gonna destroy our roads. They're not big enough. I drive a combine. I can't get a combine down the road, without stopping traffic in every direction. And people don't like that. They go in the ditches getting around me, okay? So that's another thing that we're going to have to rebuild all of our roads, especially after they leave, okay? Another thing is the personal hazards. The turbines have, I don't want to repeat all this, but all the noise of the annoyance and the looks of it. Many autistic people in our county can't take this. The headaches, tendinitis, vertigo. Another thing is the fire hazard, okay? you stood up here and said that it'll just burn, okay? Who's gonna breathe all this in? Are you gonna be here to breathe it in? Toxic waste burnt. Another, we already did Roberts, okay? This is Roberts' picture. This is our farmland in Roberts, okay? Not too long ago, this was it. How many days did that burn? Did you guys stand around and smell all the toxic gas that came off of it? What about the water? The toxic water, groundwater? Another thing too is our fire departments. You'll train them, but who's gonna pay for all the equipment to take care of the fires, okay? Because in these normal fires, they just let them burn. They burn for days. Now, it might not affect people that live in the city, whoever does, no offense, but we'll have to smell that for days. We don't know how it's going to affect our lungs. We don't know. They don't know. So these are a couple things to consider, okay? Another thing is our wildlife, okay? You may live in a yard that has a fence. I live on acreage that have deer, I have eagles, I have birds, all that, okay? And you may come out to visit out to the country to go hunting or something like that. The wildlife will not be there. The sound, the whooshing of the windmills. 63% of the bird species fly away, or they get hit by the turbines. 72% of the bat species are displaced. So our wildlife gets really disrupted. So, I guess what I'm saying, let me go back to my pictures. These are something that can be considered. The animals, and this is to be considered. Okay? So, that's all, Mike. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, ma'am. A bit of audio visuals here. We've been asked for the members, the planning commission people, to turn their mics off when they're not speaking. Okay? Thank you all. Yes, ma'am.
If I may return for just a moment, I just have a question and a statement, and I'll hand this in after I get done. You guys have an enormous task, and we're all overcoming challenges. One of mine is an essential trimmer, so when I talk or when I handle things, I shake, and I do a lot more when my cortisol's up. And this has definitely got my cortisol up. Since June 19th of last year, I've done nothing but read research, and I know how to look at it. And as I talked about in December, I cautioned everybody to be very careful about the research that you're reading because there is bias on both sides. So just pay attention to that as you consider any evidence that any of us give you. And also recognize that it's very limited. One of the things that the three of us wanted to make sure that you understood is the research that's out there, and we have not stopped studying. It does not cover larger scale turbines, whether they're 697 or 720. So keep that in mind as you read things, and I hope you do the depth that we have, because we have all, many of us, sacrificed a great deal of time to fully understand. We're not just quoting sources, we're reading the research. A question I have for our Cordelia, someone on that team, if you could share whether or not you can bring us a list before you have an ordinance of the seismic testing and the mining testing steps that you take. There are a number of different tests that you can do. And apparently it's recommended that you do it at every site that you consider. But we would love to be able to have that information on exactly what tasks could be done to address the fact that we have unmapped underground mines that we're unaware of exactly where they are, because at that point in time when those mines were being written about, it was all on paper. And it's clear that the people that are out there in that field now fully understand that those are limited maps. So some of the ground that we're going to be looking at potentially could be an unknown. So that's the question. Is that something you could provide?
If you,
Not now, but if he could.
if you would go ahead, I'll ask the
Okay.
question.
All right, and just a quick closing, and I thank you so much for the time, and I know the work that you're putting in. Ultimately, the commission's being asked to make decisions that will shape the landscape and daily life of Henderson County for decades. When decisions carry this kind of long-term impact, it is essential that the siting standards are grounded in careful planning, sound science, and the protection of people, property, and community are primary. These issues, the setbacks, the natural resources, tourism, ag, long-term responsibility, they're not separate. They are all part of one land use decision that you have to make as you create this ordinance. Careful planning today protects our land, our communities, our future. We appreciate you.
Thank you, ma'am. Someone else who hadn't had a chance? Your name, sir?
Steve Bickwarmer. I live on the corner of 2249 and 1078.
Okay, you promise to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very good. Go.
These proposed sites, there's going to be one out there. I'm going to pass two on the way home and want to be one out my front door. If I go around that corner that I live on, there's going to be two more within a quarter of a mile. According to them, in the beginning, now half of them's going away. But here's what I'm concerned about. In the beginning up here, Mr. Vaught said that they had done a study on them coming apart, and he already knows how far they're going to fall. Well, I know we all got a pretty good wind the other night. I know, and I also know how you do a crash test dummy. You put him in a car and you send him down the road and hit the wall at 60 mile an hour. How do you take 60 mile an hour wind? How do you study a 700-foot wind turbine at 60 mile an hour winds and how far it's going to fall? I have a feeling it's going to fall on my side of the fence and go through my roof. That's why I'm here. 1 mile, not near enough. It should be a complete done away with, complete prohibition. This is unnecessary. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Your name, please?
My name is Shannon Hill, 16751 Bluff City Road. Mine also has to do with the setback.
Excuse me?
Setbacks, yes,
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do, Mr.
Very
Dixon.
good. I knew you would.
So, as everyone has said, after hours and hours and hours and hours of research, you can come up with multiple examples of ordinances with setbacks. So for Mr. Vaught to say that it's not customary to have more than, or to be no more than a mile setback is false. Here is just, only going to give two examples. I know Mr. Bishop has done his research. This was from Nebraska. It said, and this is their minutes from their planning commission meeting, and one of their planning commissioners made the motion to establish a 5-mile setback for a commercial wind turbine from property line and capping the total tower height at 299 feet for the protection of public health, habitat, waterfowl migration, the potential decrease of neighboring property values, and the reduction of noise effects and shadow flicker upon neighboring properties. It was seconded and it was all approved. Nebraska, Wheeler County. Actually, Wheeler County has a 5-mile setback. Buffalo County has a 3-mile. Dawson County has a 3-mile. This is all in Nebraska. I was going state by state, and this is just the one that I pulled to bring with me. Thomas County, a 3-mile setback. Stanton County, it bans commercial wind turbines altogether. So I'll just leave this, and I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, anybody else would like to, that hadn't had a chance maybe? There's a lady in the back, I don't think that had a chance to speak. Your name, please,
Hi.
ma'am?
Ellen Crafton. I live at 402 South Main Street in Henderson. We also have property at Cache Creek.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Very good.
I'm going to be real short and sweet. Sharon owns property next to us, and she raised a question I've heard nobody else raise, and that is bringing in the enormous equipment, the huge blades, the roadways in Henderson County. Henderson County is not Nebraska, Iowa, or Indiana. We have hilly terrain and curvy roads. I just can't imagine how you're going to get those blades down the roadways.
We'll try to get answers for you, ma'am.
Okay. The other is the power grid. All of these windmills, these WECs, are going to generate power. How are they going to tie in to the power grid? If the turbine, wind turbine, is on a property, but the power line and the connectivity has to go across somebody else's property, will eminent domain be used to get the power from the WECs to the power grid? Those are my concerns.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay. Anyone else that has not had a chance to speak yet tonight? Perhaps this gentleman here? Your name, sir?
I'm Jordan Inge.
Your address?
2047 US Highway 60.
Okay, do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very good.
Thank you. I grew up out in Niagara. Shot my first deer when I was 6. Had my first job in the tobacco field for Johnny and Bobby Crafton when I was 8. And seeing all this windmill stuff that Matt scattered across there is kind of where my whole childhood took place. And it's kind of rough to watch, but bottom line, the windmills themselves and the transformers used to move the power from them to the grid all use an enormous amount of oil, hydraulic oil, lubrication oil, transformer oil, all this stuff. Up to 800 to 1,200 gallons a year per turbine. And there's a lot of places where this stuff has caused issues, gotten into water tables, well water, and especially with all these being as decentralized as they are across the land at such a high elevation, any sort of oil spill is going to just run downhill. So I would like for us to kind of maybe look at maybe tighter monitoring on any sort of big oil trucks that might want to move in with the energy stuff, because that has posed a problem in places like Wayne County, Virginia, who is currently looking at cleanup efforts for just such an occasion, where they had some transformers crack under the winter temperatures, and it's bad news. That's about all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else that hadn't had a chance to speak yet? Excuse me, this lady here in the front, would you? Thank you, ma'am.
You can come back up in a minute, do you, Joe? Hi, I'm Holly Vincent, 1920 Busby Station Road, Roberts.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please proceed.
I am a landowner. I have leased my property on Mason Landing Road to Cordelia for development of wind energy. This commission is tasked with developing an objective ordinance for wind energy. Objective being the key word. Personal opinion and emotion, political affiliation, and lobbying have no place in drafting of this ordinance. Careful, thorough consideration should be given to all documents and presentations. Metrics of success in communities across the country have engaged wind energy. This should be acknowledged. 42 states have existing policies in place which produced energy which is on the grid, which supplies all of our homes, our electronics, all of the technology that has allowed everyone to produce pictures and give us all kinds of paperwork today for you to consider. Multiple states and federal regulatory policies are in place to monitor wind energy. These policies have developed over the last 40 years as wind energy emerges as an effective energy source in North America. Wind energy provides reliable and economical power to rural communities and beyond. Technology in every aspect of our lives is affected by energy. Your home is smart. You can turn on your lights from your phone from 5 miles away. You use the internet. Everyone has emailed somebody today in their life. You stream your entertainment. You buy your tickets for entertainment. You go to games, you buy a ticket. You start your car electronically with a key. Energy affects us in all different ways. How does that affect your car? You maybe plug it in, or you have to plug in your phone to recharge it so it's charged up. Where did that come from? Energy off the grid, out of a plug, in a wall, in your home. Our medical care is affected. AI has developed. We have battery storage areas and data centers that are coming up and becoming big buzzwords. To fuel our technology, we must have energy. The requirement addition of renewable resources to our beleaguered energy portfolio includes turbine, solar, hydro, and in the probably nearer future than we want, nuclear energy. Fossil fuels are finite. They are increasingly more expensive to use and environmentally unfriendly and harmful. Many 21st century businesses and manufacturing are requiring a percentage of their energy to be of a renewable resource. This lack of renewables can keep industry out of Henderson County, out of the state of Kentucky. The bottom line is it'll affect our housing, our retail, the availability of higher education. Can we keep our children at home? Will we have jobs to provide them? Will we get to see our grandchildren? Or will they go to a state where they can obtain a job and have a reasonable cost of living? The Commonwealth of Kentucky is watching Henderson County. How this ordinance is structured based on objective, factual information will set the precedents for renewable energies throughout Kentucky. Thank you for your time and consideration on this very tough task that has been set upon you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to, good. Your name, sir?
Dr. James England. I live at 13984 US Highway 41 South.
Okay, do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Good, thank you.
I did
sir.
not prepare anything for tonight. I've just been listening and wanted to share a couple of comments because my wife's family lives in the middle of what we consider to be an industrial solar complex. You have been talked to about the siting board as if they are a catch-all safety net. I just want you to know when they did solar, the solar company and the siting board utilized Mary Clay, who is an expert in property valuation in this state, and dismissed her work and her when her results were not what they wanted to hear. So you're going to need to be cautious in counting on them to catch what falls. Mr. Rame mentioned Tornado Alley. We actually sit in what is now called Dixie Alley, which runs from Texas, Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee, up to us. And the Weather Service is saying that it is actually worse than Tornado Alley. So we have a greater potential for these things to be impacted by severe weather. In the beginning, I noticed that the Cordelia gentleman gave his address as you asked, and you asked him to correct it from the New York address to his personal. I'm assuming that New York is probably the corporate address. Their actual real corporate address would be, of course, 100 King Street in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. One of the members of this committee asked, where were the turbines coming from? I believe the general implication of that question was to determine, are they actually being built in this country, or are we sourcing them from outside? So we need to remember we're sourcing our money back out of this country when we utilize these gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
A few questions. The first thing is more of a comment, which is I would like to say that in regards to the fact that Mr. Dutton and Cordelia did not get the Planning Commission's recommendations in advance, neither did the community. But they showed up because they had been doing homework and they didn't know what they would find. So I do not have great sympathy because we didn't have advance notice and we did our work. And I couldn't be prouder of the Henderson community for how well they have done their homework. The first thing I would like to say is that I had already written down, and Attorney Friday beat me to it, I'd already written down chicken and egg problem, because this has been haunting me for some time when I've had conversations with the energy companies. That being, when you say, what about this shadow flicker? What about that? We can't say anything about that until we know exactly, or they literally say until you give us an ordinance. And so I say to that, and I did at the Cordelio meet and greet to one of the representatives, well, you know your methodology. Could you just send me something on your methodology? How do you study wildlife? Nothing. How did you study shadow flicker? You say you're going to keep it to, say, 30 hours? Tell us what software. Tell us your methodology. And that means give us some transparency, because we're not buying a car until we can look at what the safety record was, right? So I think that there is a great need for much more transparency in a timely way. So that takes care of my chicken and egg issue. I'm also concerned about what I heard, if I heard correctly from Mr. Vogt, that there seems to be a great need for pressure in timing. So they're making a request, if I heard right, 60 days from a response to a citing. Was that, could you refresh me on your timeline that you were citing?
Okay, we'll have to do that when he can come to the microphone.
Okay, well then I'll jump and he can come and do a response. I'd like to know a little more.
The question was what?
I'd like to know more about the timing that he's requesting, because it seems like there's a lot of, or some, I don't want to exaggerate it, some pressure for us to hurry up and get our ordinance done. In fact, they're so worried about it, they've written us a 5-page ordinance for us. We don't have to be here tonight, it's written for us. But in fact, the ordinances that I shared with you, the Posey County one is 21 pages, can't say the name, the other K one is 17 pages. These are not light matters to be flipped through in 5 pages. So I'm concerned about the speed and pressure that we might be working with. Some of the questions when Mr. Vogt does come to the microphone, he mentioned that these turbines will not be on the underground mines, if I heard right earlier. And so my question is, what will be on them? Because they've leased the ground. So at one time, there was a grand plan that there would be turbines and solar and also BESS. That was on their website. So I'd like to know what the plan is for those leased acres. Also, I'd like to know, I think it was already mentioned, but specifically whether they will be getting leases for the transmission lines. That takes up acreage and agricultural ground as well. When I went to the Cordelio meet and greet, I learned a new word when I asked about decommissioning, and I said, well, what happens at that point? Because a lot of times companies come in and they go, well, we'll just pull out the solar panels and throw some topsoil down and we'll be back to ag, or we'll just pluck out the turbine. But the term is repowering. So these are not going away. These are 30-year leases. I haven't seen the lease, but that's what gets thrown around. 30-year leases, and at that point, maybe some of the people that signed the original contract, now it's among heirs, that's gonna change the culture of our county. But also importantly, if they're repowered, then this is in perpetuity until it's not. So I'm concerned about that part of the timing. The last thing I'd like to say is I'm a little concerned about, we're here tonight about land use and siting. The mixed messages perhaps that some of Henderson County is giving, and that is to say, if we are gung-ho to be industrial, and we've seen how some of that experiment has worked out, but at the same time, this very planning commission in the last few years created a novel zoning ordinance for rural residential properties. I believe it's 5 acres or less? Rural residential. Because people seek out that life, right? Which people have spoken to, not to live in an industrial complex. They want a goat, they want a pond, whatever. So rural residential, this planning commission saw a need for. More recently, we have just passed a text amendment specifically for agritourism, for farmer and Frenchman. And Audubon State Park has just approved the plans for, I don't even know how many $1 million it is, convention center. So on the one hand, we're saying we're all for agritourism and so forth, but the people in Roberts don't have the same view as farmer and Frenchman. So if you'll answer those questions, I'd appreciate it.
I'll do my best, ma'am.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, if you don't mind, could we try to respond to some of this?
Yeah, so I'll begin.
Excuse me, according to my notes, we have a question concerning the type of seismic testing that's used to determine the soil structure. I mean, I assume the person wanted names.
So I'm not an engineer that does a seismic or geotechnical test, but we do engage experts in the field when we have an idea of where we might do a test. They will define the test that will be required to make sure that they are comfortable signing and sealing a design that they create for a foundation for a wind turbine.
And what those tests exactly are and what they show that would be available to somewhere along the process here?
So typically that information is not provided because that goes into the design work of the facility.
So it would not be available as to what
Typically, no.
tests were done and what the tests show?
The sealed and stamped engineering drawings would confirm that the engineer that's providing his certification of that is comfortable that the conditions are appropriate for the turbine to be built.
Okay.
It's kind of meaningless unless you know what you're designing. So the data that's collected is specific for the purpose that you're designing to.
We had a question concerning wind damage, extremely high winds that we have seen lately, it seems like.
Sure. So wind turbine loading is something that the turbine manufacturers will review before they agree to sign a contract to provide turbines to a site. We are aware of historic weather in every project location that we are working. We have installed in this particular county 2 meteorological towers, 197 feet tall, that are out there collecting data in real time. They have been up for over, I think, 2 years at this point, and will be continuing to collect data. We've also installed what's called I think it's a SODAR unit that uses sound detection and ranging to shoot a beam up into the air higher than those towers, so we're actually recording the wind speeds much higher in the air than those towers are able to do. We take that data and we correlate it with existing data from meteorological centers, airports, other data sets that we then review to confirm that we understand what the data shows that the site conditions are. Manufacturers have conditions that their turbines meet, and there are different classifications of turbines that are sold. So various wind conditions require a different class of turbine. So until we're done with all of our studies, I can't say which class is going to be required here, but there will be ample studies done to confirm the turbines will be able to withstand the general weather. Tornadoes are a different animal. There is not a turbine in the world that is likely to take a direct hit from a tornado directly. Neither is a house, a barn, or any other structure.
There was questions about the roadways, getting to and from construction sites with very large equipment.
Sure. I'll start off by saying typically we are entering into road use agreements with either the host county, township, or state to verify that we know that we are responsible for the repair, maintenance, and upkeep of the roads during the construction and at the completion of our project. We have no issues doing that. We also have already engaged an engineer, and we have already, in fact, confirmed that your roads are terrible. They're not going to sustain the weights of the equipment and materials that are going to be coming in here. So before our construction starts, we will do a more thorough assessment of the particular routes that would be used, the conditions that they are in, the upgrades that are needed before construction to make sure that the roadways, the bridges, and the culverts and other road infrastructure will be able to handle the loads. Following the completion of construction, we will then come back in and repair any additional damage that was done during the construction process. We are more than willing to enter an agreement and provide financial security to guarantee that those damages will be repaired.
Okay, thank you. There was a question having to do with connecting to the power grid and what kind of structures would be necessary in addition to the turbines.
Sure. I think the other question was also eminent domain. So I will start out by saying
yes.
we do plan to build an overhead power line that would be from our project area to the existing high voltage transmission line. So it would be similar to the high voltage lines that already exist. We are a private business. We do not have rights of eminent domain. Every agreement that we're using for our project is voluntary.
Okay. There was, I think, a question having to do with the use of the property, the property that is directly above the underground mine, how would that be used?
I thought I tried to explain this earlier, but we will do an assessment of each turbine location before construction begins. We have already been in touch with the mining department. We are aware of the same maps that have been shared here tonight. We are also in direct contact with the companies that are doing reclamation. So we're also aware of the process that they're following, the reclamation activities, locations, timelines. So that is certainly an issue that we are on top of and will continue to monitor before we get to construction so that we will be able to verify all of our locations are safe.
Okay. And there was a question concerning timing or a sense that things needed to move at a certain pace.
That was my thought.
We did not ask that this process go any faster than has been laid out. While we have been here now for going on 4 years, this is a process we are willing to participate in. We want to make sure that the county and the residents understand what they're going to see and what regulations will be in place. I'll let you speak to the timing because it was in the ordinance.
Yeah, the timing that I referenced earlier is in the ordinance that we had proposed, and that was for processing a specific site project, so a site plan and the application that comes with it. That was a proposal for the process to process that application, not to amend this process in any way.
Okay, thank you.
And to continue on that point, what we're asking for in an ordinance is something that provides us very clear expectations and standards so that when we design a facility, we can meet all of those conditions so that we can verify step by step, line item by line item, that we have addressed every single point in the ordinance, that if we meet those conditions, our expectation is that an approval will be granted.
Does the commission have any questions for these gentlemen?
I want a little clarification. I don't think you understood what David asked you in regards to the use of the property other than where the turbine base is going to sit. There's questions from the audience about, are you planning on putting solar panels on the leased ground that you're not using as a turbine facility? Now, I've got several friends out there. I was born and raised out there. And they've told me that, yes, they've leased their property, and y'all have assured them that once the facility's done, you're basically gonna take acre, maybe a little more, according on the, the location. But say you've rented a 150 acre farm, and you're only gonna use 1 acre of that lease for that turbine. So what are you gonna do with the other acreage?
Would you like me to address the other industries, even though we're here to talk about wind tonight?
Well, Cordello is,
Okay.
Let me just say, I think it's, number one, a little bit outside the scope for what we're here to talk about tonight, but I will try and answer on behalf of my client. If they were to put panels on those, they would have to come back before this commission and comply with the solar ordinance. So we're way out into theoretical realm here, so I don't
understand.
know that I want to pigeonhole him and make him force an answer on this. A project that would come before you that deals with this ordinance is going to exclusively deal with this ordinance. If there is a solar project that comes before you, they're going to have to deal with the solar ordinance. So I would just, instead of conflating the two and making this more complex, I would just try and keep those separate for now if possible.
Sorry, Greg, I'll answer the question anyway.
Well, a couple things. One, this body sets the parameters of what's set. And then second, from the conversations we had with Mr. Vault to Dickie's question, it's wind, solar, and BESS. It's not just a one issue. From the conversations we've had, it's multiple thousand more acres of solar, maybe multiple BESS projects. So that's the quick answer to that, Commissioner Johnson.
Can I answer the question? Okay. I'm willing to do so. Yes, we are proposing Rock Bluff Energy Park to contain wind, solar, and battery energy storage systems. The current proposal is 200 megawatts of each technology. We have leases that give us the rights for wind facilities. We have some leases that give us the rights for wind and solar facilities. We are unable to say where any of these facilities will go. We recognize that there are currently BESS and solar ordinances that are in the current moratorium. We are going to site wind turbines first, and then on the properties that have allowed us to site solar, we will space the solar panels in areas that will be suitable for them. So until we site turbine locations, we will not be able to site any of the other facilities. The battery storage system is expected to be located at our project substation, which will be out in the middle of the turbine area on our project side of the transmission line that we will build to the point of interconnect.
Okay. I mean, that answers the question, I think, that Deidre was asking. So, and maybe a couple other individuals that come up here.
Any other questions from the commission? While you're up here, gentlemen, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, there were a couple of things that we wanted to clarify. Number one, just to reiterate, I think we're here to ask for a process, right? We're not asking for approval tonight. We're not asking for approval next month. We're asking for a process to get a proposal in front of you. So some of the questions that we're trying to answer, we can't answer because it's too early in the process. Some of them, it's just too theoretical at this point. So we are trying to go as much transparency as we can before this commission to answer the questions that you have and that the public has. So if some of them seem unsatisfactory, it's just because that's where we are in the process. We are looking forward to fully vetting this project before you once we are able to get a site plan developed, once we have an ordinance. So we're still in the early stages. I did want to address 2 points that were covered earlier and that we did a little bit of research while we were sitting here. So there was a lot of discussion about ordinances and setbacks. Based on our research, there is not a single wind project constructed in the United States that has a 1 mile setback. So there are communities that have these, but I would encourage you to look at the ordinances in communities where they actually have projects built. The second one is the 200-foot maximum height for a tower. There is also, again, as far as we can tell while we're sitting here, not a utility scale project in the United States that has been constructed with a 200-foot maximum height. So to go back to my point I just made, we're looking for a process to put a project before you. We would like the process to be one that allows us to bring a viable project before you. That doesn't mean that you're going to say yes to it, that you're going to have questions, that you'll have the opportunity to ask us to make changes, but we are looking for a process to bring a viable project before you. And those two elements that we discussed tonight, there's no roadmap in the United States for a project that can financially be constructed with those parameters. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time and attention.
My name's Steve, and when this come about, when I found out about it, me and my family went downtown and sat with Cordelio the first day for 3 hours. Come back in about a week and sat another 2. And they put that flyer out there on you, and this is what, look how pretty this is. Colors jump out at you. Really looks good. Then you look, you flip the page, the next one's got wind turbine on it. Flip the page, next one's got full of solar panels. I asked that question back in July of last year. Oh yeah, once we lease that land, we can do whatever we want to. Common sense. What are they gonna do with it? They're gonna put solar panels under it. Okay, no, I'm not gonna put solar panels under it, but I don't know what this next company's gonna do. So the next company puts them under it. We're stuck. We're in the middle of Roberts. We're gonna take the whole county and surround those, what was it, 102 people per square mile are gonna have to live in this. And then you go to a physical court meeting and they're talking about housing. They're wanting to make housing for people. I wanna get out. I don't wanna live in that. Think about our community. Thank y'all again for your time. And I'm gonna go back a minute. I don't know how you're gonna test a 700-foot tall wind turbine. Well, you go up there and take the bolts loose and wait for a gust and see, we're gonna test it and see how far those blades are gonna fall. How do you do that? Can you answer that? I know how you do the cars, you run them into the wall. How do you do that? How do you predict 60-mile-an-hour winds to blow those off? He said they come apart. He said that, not me. Thank y'all.
Hi. Lisa Thompson Meyer, 13341, State Route 136 East, Henderson. I do. I have some confusion over some of the stuff that they just said. One is, he said the weather towers are 100 foot, only 100 foot tall. Well, the weather, anyone's ever flown in a plane, they know. I'm sorry? 197. Even 197. It's a lot different at 700 foot up, you know, when you're in a plane, than 100 foot or 200 foot. So how do they really know what the weather's going to be up there as far as the turbines and the blades? And it seems like if you're ever on the internet, it's every day. There's some place that a wind turbine's on fire, blades have blown off, they've went off crossed highways, they've hit cars, they've done all these things. And I really question, I guess, not only the preventive maintenance, but do they really know what they have? You know, they said that they haven't used these 697-foot turbines, so how do they know, if they haven't, how it's going to be in Henderson County? And the other question I have is, why are we just now hearing, or it's the first time I've heard it, the use of the property could have or would have wind turbines, solar panels, and BESS? Has anyone else heard that before tonight? I hadn't, but you know, maybe I was. Because I've got a lot of friends that lease the property, they don't. Yeah, but I haven't heard them mention that at all until tonight. And they're talking about wanting to fully vet the project. I mean, do we know what their process is to really and truly vet the project? I think we need to know that before they move any further down the road. And they're wanting a process now for them to move forward, and I think we want a process knowing what it is they're going to be doing to get a process. So it's kind of, communication's not been there. And then talking about the setbacks, if you've got a wind turbine that is 700 foot tall, or I'm sorry, 697 foot tall, and if you're ever on the internet, you see a lot of them collapsing, falling over. Seems like it's more and more all the time that you see these at different locations within Sweden, Australia, and those places. I mean, what are they going to do to make sure that that doesn't happen here? What are the safety regards? Do they have a safety plan? I would like to see a safety plan, while they're constructing them, and then even afterwards to make sure that they're being checked and they're not going to fall on somebody's house, somebody's car, somebody's child. I think those are some critical things. I mean, this has been going on for 4 years, but it doesn't seem like there hasn't been a lot of sharing during that point. And then, that the leases cover all three, that bothers me a lot, not knowing what's going to be in your neighborhood. It could be a wind turbine, it could be a solar panel, it could be BESS. So, that's all I have.
Hello, Shannon Hill again, and I swear to tell the truth. So 3 things I've written notes. Mr. Friday had asked earlier of Mr. Vaught if he would share any information, and he said he didn't have any information, to share with you, but yet he is talking about all the tests that they've completed with, I guess, the towers that they have up and the whatever they've already done. So would they share that with the Planning Commission or share that with Brian's office? So that would be a question for you to ask of them. Also, Mr. Vaught also talked about they didn't have a problem with, fixing the roads or fixing any damage that they had done. So the way that Ms. Deidre had said that in some ordinances, there was a property value guarantee for non-participating landowners. So, I mean, that would protect the non-participating landowners. So would they be willing for that to be put in the ordinance? Also, it's really interesting with the solar. I'm sure you are all aware, we're in the middle right now of where Mr. Thompson at Fiscal Court has proposed a solar cap of 6,050 acres. So we don't have any acres left for solar panels to be put on. So I'm a little confused in why we're still talking about putting solar panels somewhere when we don't have any property left to be able to put solar panels. Can somebody help with that conversation?
Thanks, Jennifer. So Ms. Hill brings up a good point that the fiscal court has originated a resolution directing the Plan Commission to come back with a text amendment that would limit solar farms to 6,050 acres, if I believe. Currently, we have roughly 6,013 acres approved. So is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yes. So the quick answer is that is in the process with the Plan Commission.
Right.
So that will be something that is coming in the next several months.
Right, but I mean, I understand not tonight, but how Mr. Johnson was saying, what are you gonna do with the rest of those acres? Well, you're not gonna be able to fill it in with solar panels, and you've got the property leased, so it's not gonna be able to be farmed. You've taken all of this acreage out of the farming community.
I can't guarantee you that, but I know that if they take up 1 acre,
Yeah,
the farmer is 126 acres.
Right.
They have 125 acres of tillable ground.
absolutely, right.
So, I mean,
Yeah, so that's what I'm asking. I'm asking of them. I mean, I don't want to ask them. I want you to ask them. I mean, it's not going to be able to be solar because we're going to have a solar cap. Hopefully. I mean, that's what the plan is. So that was my questions. Thank you.
Glenn Leslie,
1712 State Route 416 East, Henderson. Promise to tell the truth. Couple questions I have is eminent domain. They said that they cannot do eminent domain. Well, more than likely what they're going to do, they're going to go to Big Rivers, they're going to go to KU and have them do eminent domain because they can. The other question is, all these megawatts that they're going to produce, they're not going to use it here. So where's it going? Because it's going to be shipped out to other communities, other states. So it's not going to benefit Henderson at all. Third thing is, 30 years from now with my grandkids, what's going to happen with the solar panels or the wind turbines whenever the blades and all that stuff start going bad? There's no way to get rid of it. Usually what they do is dig a hole and bury it because I don't know of any way they recycle it. All the pictures that I've seen, they just dig holes, put them in a big cup, drop them in there, and then cover them over with dozers. You know, something else. And then if they do solar panels, the other thing that I've heard is that 20, 30 years when the solar panels are gone, you cannot go back and make that farm ground again because the ground is contaminated. I'd like to know about that. That's all I have.
I just have a couple of questions, and it may be for Mr. Friday, it may be for the commission, but I'm curious as to, I think it's pretty evident that there's been pardon my language, a crap ton of data that's been presented. I mean, an overwhelming, a daunting amount of data. A lot of people in this room on both sides are chomping at the bit to have some influence in writing these ordinances, or this ordinance. My question is the writing of the ordinance, is that going to happen in a meeting such as this? Does that happen at another setting? How does that work?
I'm gonna get it before the night's over. So the process is laid out with the meetings. So once we get through all the meetings where we discuss shadow flicker, my assumption is that the Planning Commission will direct the staff to review the record and then write the ordinance based on the information that was provided at this meeting. But that is my assumption. I still believe the Planning Commission has the authority to direct how it's written.
So are we able, as a community, are we able to propose an ordinance if, say the group that's obviously in opposition of the turbines, if we were to get together and we were to sit down with legal representation and craft an ordinance, is that something that we would simply craft and then submit to staff, or?
I would request that be submitted to the Planning Commission itself so it's entered into the public record. And then from there, we would follow the same process. It's entered in officially. You give us a document that we can share in a digital format.
Okay, so how would that be submitted to the Planning Commission? Because everything we've submitted has went through you.
Just like tonight. You give a hard copy to Heather for record keeping and then email me the digital copy for sharing.
Okay.
Councilor, did you want to add to that?
There are a number of ways that an ordinance can be drafted, but there is a statutory procedure with what must happen with that ordinance, and the one that you would be most concerned about is that it has to be presented at a public hearing, a noticed public hearing. So there will be an opportunity for input on that proposed ordinance, as detailed as you want to be. Doesn't mean that the Planning Commission will recommend what you say. Doesn't mean the Planning Commission will recommend what Energy may say or propose. Among them, they will make a recommendation to Fiscal Court, then Fiscal Court will consider it, and they do not have to adopt the recommendation of the Planning Commission. They can, or they can change it, however they choose. And it may or may not, depending on what they do, have to come back to the Planning Commission for another public hearing. There is no absolute rule about how it will play out until you know what you're dealing with. Now, what you do know is that there's going to be a public hearing at the Planning Commission before they make a recommendation to the county. You can count on that.
And that's in addition to the meetings that we're having, that we're talking about shadow flickering and that. So that's a statutory requirement in addition to what we're already doing.
That'll be after all of the public hearings are completed and a statute is drafted and presented to the Planning Commission. There will be a notice, and so that people can have input to the Planning Commission on that proposed ordinance. Is what I'm saying clear? Do you understand it?
I do. I'm tracking with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
There actually has been one already submitted, if I recall correctly, in handwriting. It's that was put in the file. There's been an ordinance already proposed.
Well,
So
two,
it's a
because
span.
Cordelio had offered, they proposed one in their binder, the 5-page one.
That's already been proposed.
And
Yes.
and it dealt
Theirs,
with,
and another one has been.
dealt with the roads, didn't it?
So, last question. When it comes to the planning commission, is there a vote that's held on the ordinance? And if so, how many members of the planning commission does it take to pass the ordinance?
There is a vote. It's done in the public hearing, and that's for a recommendation to fiscal court. It takes the majority of the number of planning commission members that are there that evening.
It's a simple majority.
Simple majority.
Okay, thank you.
We've got some questions floating around. Gentlemen, want to try to field some of these?
You have a list?
Did my best.
We'll do our best too then.
There was the question that simplified. You got 697 foot towers in operation.
As I said earlier, yes, we've got them installed in a project in Arkansas.
Safety plans, you got safety plans in operation? That you use?
All of our operating projects have safety plans tailored to each site, yes.
That's something that can be shared?
We could share one existing, yes.
Okay. The question about a property valuation guarantee. Have you heard of
If
such a thing?
The question was, if it's in the ordinance, would we abide by it? The answer to that is yes.
Okay.
The question is, what would it look like, and how would it be managed? Yes, I'm aware of them. I've seen them before, and just letting the county know that they are very, very difficult to manage.
Okay. There was a question about the use of remaining acreage for solar panels if there is a solar cap in place.
We're going to abide by any ordinance in place. So if a cap exists,
There was a question about eminent domain by large utilities.
we are not a utility. We do not have rights of eminent domain. We cannot do that. I don't know where that came from, but that's not how we are allowed to do business.
But for larger utilities,
We're not one, and we are building a private, we are an independent power producer. We are not a utility.
okay. So maybe one of your customers would be a large enough utility that they would have the power of eminent domain.
A customer would buy the energy we produce after it's already operating. So we couldn't use any eminent domain associated with that contract.
Okay. And where does the power go?
I don't know. We are a developer. We're speculating on an energy project. As with any other power plant that's built by an independent power producer, we are in early stages. We don't know the size of the project that can ultimately be built, how much energy it can produce, nor how much we need to have the customer pay for that power. So it's too early for us to start having conversations about how much anybody would be willing to enter into contract for the power.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I clarify two things about that? Number one, the the power, when you put it on the grid, it's essentially used on the grid, right? We can't send a particular electron from here to Baltimore. When it goes on the grid, it's part of the grid. And so more than likely, the electrons themselves that get put on the grid are gonna get used in the most local areas. So typically, these projects are sited where there's actually a hole on the grid of generation. You don't put this power onto a grid that's already got a ton of generation. You put it on someplace where there's a lot of use and not a lot of generation. So that's pretty standard. And then the second one about the utilities, the way that these work, if you look at a lot of the other projects that have been developed and built around the state, is that the developer has no power of eminent domain, and the utilities don't do that on their behalf, because they would have to go through the Public Service Commission to build any of that generation or any of that infrastructure. So the developer gets the private agreements with private landowners and builds out the generation to the point of interconnection with the utility. So the utility essentially does nothing. It sits there and gives you access to their existing infrastructure. So there's no, within that framework, there's no logistical method for a utility to use eminent domain on behalf of this project.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Bishop?
One question, Mr. Chairman. The power that's generated in Arkansas, who's that sell to?
I don't know who that's contracted to. I'm sorry.
100% of it is sold to Microsoft Data Center.
Is that right? I believe that is correct. I believe it's Microsoft. I did not work on that project myself, so I don't have firsthand knowledge of that.
Can I also just clarify that there's typically two ways that power is sold? There's the electrons that are generated and put on the grid, and then there's the actual credits for the energy that is produced. So the electrons are typically used here, but there may be a purchase agreement with someone else to utilize that, but they're essentially buying the clean energy credit as opposed to the specific electrons that go on the grid. And I have now exhausted all of my pseudo-engineering, so
Thank you.
I'll leave it at that.
We could prepare a half-hour or more presentation on how the power grid works, if that would be helpful, but
Okay,
probably
well-
not tonight.
We can talk about that, okay? Think I'm kidding?
No?
Okay, I got straight up 9:01. We need to decide if we want to. Okay. Okay, we'll give it a try. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Chairman.
Bobby Bickwormer, 2448 Old Nobick Road, Pierce,
Promise to
Kentucky.
tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Always do.
Very good.
Back in July, that was my brother got up here and talked a while ago. Back in July, we went up there to the office where these people work. Everything was a little bit secret back then. Couldn't show us a map, finally showed one. It was about this big on the iPad. Oh, you can't take a picture of that. We don't want nobody to know that. There was 5 of us family members. But I do know this gentleman here in the red shirt, they can witness it, said once we lease the land, we can do what we want to with it. We can put solar, BS, whatever we want to. Once they lease it, the landowner is not, can't even be on that land, they'd be arrested. But I do know, I got some friends, I lived in Roberts for 10 years, I loved it. You couldn't give me a piece of property out there now. But I got a buddy that leased some land and tried to buy it back. It was too late because he seen what was going on. Let me back up. They snuck in up here. Nobody knew it. I never seen it on TV. But I do know our former mayor worked for them. I thought, boy, that's a little fishy there. I mean, that looks like it's candy coated. You know what I mean? Everybody, the mayor's working for them. But anyway, then we got a lady up here that's for it because she owns, let me back up again. Out here at the college in meeting, I talked to Mr. Austin. I walked up to him, I said, what do you think about Roberts? You know what come out of his mouth? I wouldn't want to live there. Directly told me, I wouldn't want to live there. He lives up here in the corner looking at the river. This lady's got land list. she got it out here in the county. Where's she? Is she living in the middle of it? I don't know where she lives, but I bet she's not. And the lady that held the sign up earlier, the dollar sign, that's what it's all about. I've been sitting back here all night, and nothing's really been answered. They start right here and end up right back at the same spot. We don't know any more tonight than we did when we got here. I'm done.
Thank you. Okay. I've got 9:04. Okay, I think we're gonna have to call it a night and come back tomorrow. Got various other speakers?
have a couple of items very quickly.
With the commission's permission, I'm gonna.
How many more people want to speak?
Yes, do we have a lot of?
If there's only one or two, let's get it over with.
Okay, that was my question.
10 or 15.
Okay, I'll entertain that idea if that's okay with everybody.
Change our procedure for tonight, add 15 minutes to it.
Okay. I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
This is instead of continuing tomorrow night?
Well,
Instead of continuing tomorrow night, yes. We don't know whether we have a quorum. We just barely have a quorum tonight. And some people
okay.
may not be here and then not have a quorum, then it just prolongs the problem.
Okay, so the motion and a second says that we should extend the meeting this evening by 15 minutes. Correct? Any
Yes.
discussion?
Yes.
That 15 minutes will start after this vote. All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Okay, we've got 15 minutes, folks.
Maybe y'all can keep it succinct.
We promise them to go as long as we need to go.
That's true.
That's the way we operate. Yes, ma'am.
Rebecca Wood. Just 2 points. One, to finish up what I was saying earlier, and we've had a lot of discussion around sound, but it has been audible sound and hertz that you can hear. But these wind turbines also generate something called infrasound, which does have health issues to it. So I would recommend that we require at the construction of the project installation that would be necessary to mitigate infrasound.
Excuse me, ma'am, I have a question for staff. Do we have a public hearing coming up that deals with sound?
Yes, that is the next data parameter.
Okay, I'm sorry.
May 20th, okay?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
One other comment, and it deals with the comment that Mr. Vogt spoke about the 200 megawatts of wind, solar, and BESS. If you look at the MISO interconnection, the project is out there. It was initially set to interconnect with Big Rivers. It is now interconnecting with Center Point Sigico.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Yes, please. Yes, please. We're doing good.
My name is Hannah. I'm back again. So previously I said that the tallest wind turbine was by Texas A&M. As we know today, that is not correct. However, if y'all just heard, he said that he was not a part of that project, that he did not help build that project. So I think that's something that needs to be noted. Has he built a project? Has he been helping with a project that's 697 feet? I think that's important to note. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else like to speak tonight? Okay, we got plenty of time now. We got 7 minutes. We got 7 minutes.
I second Mr. Johnson's.
Okay, we have a. If everybody's done, I've got a motion to adjourn and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of adjournment, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Very good. We stand adjourned. I thank everybody. And we meet again when? May 20. And we'll be back here.